all day long. Naruto could not let go of this feeling in the pit of his stomach. Something was wrong, but he pressed on with his master Jiraiya as they saw the gates of Koha. You excited kid? He asked, looking over at his student SLG Goodson. Without looking he shrugged. I don't know, but have a funny feeling this won't be a happy reunion, he said, walking to the village. Jiraiya looked at him for a moment as he walked on, guilt on his eyes. If you only knew kid, he whispered to himself. Tsunade sat in her chair shaking her head. Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura had just come to her with a petition to remove Naruto from Team 7 and got the council to agree to it. Laying on her desk was the signed papers. So much for the will of fire. Who sensei? She sneered, looking up at Sarutobi. She heard a knock at the door and it opened up to show Jiraiya and Naruto looking at her with smiles. Hello Yuta, she said, getting up and walking to them. Hi Bakken, they both said. She hugged Naruto, getting a good look at them. He grew to about 6 feet 5 in and built like a brick wall. Loosing the orange jumpsuit he had in, a black muscle shirt with blue armbands with the leaf insignia, a green battle vest not J and vest, red pants with black shinobi boots with his pants tucked in. His belt had 2 brown holsters for his kai shuriken, the other for his seals, as well as a special made black holster on the back of his belt for his special made chakra daggers. You look good brat, I missed you, she said to him. Missed you too, he replied. They spent the next couple hours as they filled her in on their training and adventures, having gone to lands like Spring, Snow Tea, Hot Springs and so on. Sounds like you did well, and from my reports you're not only a seal expert but you're Tai Jitsu, Kinjutsu and Ninjutsu or Jing as well. I'm impressed, but well, tested all out in a couple days. Until then you're free to go. Come by tomorrow morning, we have a few to discuss. Okay, she said, less than enthused. Naruto saw but only nodded. He knew his gut was right in telling him something was off. Bidding them all farewell he left. He doesn't know about Hinata, I couldn't tell him, Jiraiya said, disappointed. She nodded. That's not all. Team 7 came by earlier today. They had a petition signed to have Naruto off not only the team but off the active roster. The whole council signed it as well as his friends with exception of Lee Ni and Tenon. As of tomorrow Naruto will no longer be a leaf ninja. She spat with disgust. Jiraiya just looked at her, his eyes widened at this. You're kidding, he said, sitting down. At this point Shisen had come in to sit with them. Sad at how everything has gone to __. This is going to crush him, but I think he knows something bad will happen. He confided in me earlier before we got here, the Toad Sage said, drinking some sake. Naruto looked around at the people, giving either dirty looks or ignoring his existence, which made him both confused and hardened. It seems they still see him as a monster. He could only shake his head at this. He headed to Ichaka Ramen for some comfort food. He came upon the stand with a smile. So many good memories here. Walking inside he saw it was fairly busy but ignored them all as he made his way to the bar. Hey old man, TWY hit me with a bowl, he said aloud, standing up. The old man looked around. Toy, who called for him when he saw Naruto, and smiled. His favorite customer had come home. Naruto, my boy, how have you been? He said. Good, now that I am here, he replied. I am come here, we have a special guest, he called out. She came from the back to see her favorite blonde was home. She brightened and went up to hug him, which he returned as a bowl was placed in front of him. Talking and eating. So how are you and Hinata? I am asked nervously. He stopped. Don't know, she hasn't replied to any of my letters in the last year and I have been having a bad feeling the last month. We find out soon, I guess, he told her. She nodded. She knew the reason why Hinata had gone behind his back to be with Choji, saying he was cheating on her. Now she was getting married to the boy and was having his baby as well, a thought that made I am frown. I know something is wrong, but I'm just afraid to know, he said to them. I'm sorry my boy, but she has been seeing the Akamaiki boy behind your back. It was found out she is having his baby in about 8 months time as well as getting married, the old man said, unable to take it. His eyes widened, then the pain set in as he looked down, but at least he knew now. To be honest, I thought she was better than that, but at least I know now. Thanks old man, he said with a genuine smile. This shocked them all, thinking he would blow up and go berserk, but it was like a weight was off his shoulders. He took a deep breath, letting out a big sigh, wiping away the tears as his mask finally broke away. The pair watched with both sadness and relief as he broke away the facade, and the world would finally get to know the real Naruto like that. Had thanks for the food and for everything, to be honest. Thank you, he said happily to them. They nodded, thinking he needed time to process everything. Watching him pay and leave, Naruto walked out of the shop feeling better than he had been in a long time, but soon he knew he had a choice to make: remain as he is and continue on his dream as Hokage, or look to new horizons. Making his way home, he just smiled. He felt good and nothing would bother him. He heard several familiar voices and saw the other rookies as well as Sasuke. Well, guess that decided to stay after all, he said to himself as he walked off, not sparing a glance at them anymore. He needed to think about some things first, but he knew one thing: he would not go look for them. If they wanted to talk they could come to him. Naruto woke up a little early early as he really couldn't sleep. Getting up and getting ready, he went for a cold shower. Being a geeky allowed his body to maintain a temp of 100 degrees plus the cold felt nice. Getting ready, he headed out the door, no bothering to lock it because he sealed away all his valuables in his scroll. Making his way to the KAG office, he ignored the glare, spending some time thinking. He decided he was done with the KAG dream and these people, they didn't matter to him anymore. One threw a bottle at him thinking it would hit the demon, but he caught it, turned to look at the man who threw it and chucked back at him, smashing into his chest. Without another thought, Naruto walked away, leaving a shocked and frightened crowd. The secretary looked up at him with both disdain and disgust, sneering at him. She was about to retort when he gave her the bird. "Keep your mouth shut," he spoke, not bothering to look at her or the look of shock as he made his way to see Tsunade. Opening the door, he saw her asleep in the chair. He smiled at her, shaking his head. Finding a blanket and pillow, he summoned a clone, gently picking up her head, placing the pillow there and putting the blanket on her. As he moved to the couch near the wall and sat in silence, closing his eyes, he found himself in his mind walking out of the forest. He saw a giant cave. Inside was a sleeping Kurarama. He smiled at his first friend and left in peace. Shisen had come to see a sleeping Tsunade with a pillow and blanket while Naruto was on the couch with his arms crossed and eyes closed. She smiled at this. He had really matured this time. He even made her comfortable. "Morning, Zune," he whispered to her. It startled her as he opened his dark blue eyes to look at her. He gave her a closed mouth smile. "Morning, Naruto-kun, how are you?" she asked him, sitting next to him on the couch. "To be honest, better than I have in a while. Thank you for asking," he said as they made conversation. "Have you seen any of your friends?" she asked him. He shook his head with a frown. "No, and I won't after this. Apparently Hinata has been seeing Choi behind my back, so he said to her nonchalantly. She gave him a sad smile. "I'm sorry we didn't," he stopped her. "You have nothing to apologize for. We were only together for a few weeks before I left. She chose someone else and I am okay with that. Could have found out better, but oh well," he said to her as he hugged her. She could only smile at this and nod. She had missed him. It wasn't as fun without him here. It was about 10 a.m. At this point, and Tati was still asleep, so Naruto decided to wake her up, much to Shizen's dismay, but she let him do it anyways. He made his way over to her and began rubbing her back with one hand using sparse amounts of chakra. "Hey Bakken, it's time to get up," he said gently and with enough volume to make sure she heard her. She whimpered a bit at first, then slowly opened her eyes to see her GY smiling at her, which helped brighten her day a bit more. "Naruto, what time is it?" she asked. 10 a.m. he said to her as she nodded, yawned and stretched. Rubbing her eyes, she saw a hot cup of tea placed in front of her with some breakfast. As she ate happily, saw Naruto again and frowned. She would have to tell him today he was no longer a shinobi. The thought almost brought her to tears. She finished her meal and looked up at him, beckoning him to sit, which he did. "Naruto, I am afraid I have some bad news for you. It seems that Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke petitioned to have you not only removed from Team 7 but the Leaf Shinobi roster. It was submitted and approved yesterday by the council behind my back," she said, trying to be gentle. His eyes widened in shock, then they dimmed a bit as he scoffed. "So that's what that dread feeling was yesterday," he said to himself, making the women look at him with sympathy who all didn't sign it. He asked, not really seeming bothered by all this. Tsunade looked at him for a moment, then came back to her senses and looked through some papers. "Apparently Team Guy, Anko, Mirashi, Kurini, Yui, Asuma, Sarutobi, Iyayumo, the Karu Corps, Iki, Marino and the Ora family from a civilian standpoint," she said to him sadly. He simply nodded as he got up and reached into his pocket, looking at the leaf headband. The thing he shed blood, sweat and tears for had been taken from him, but this time he simply felt nothing for it. Now folding it, he placed on Tsunade's desk. "I always figured something like this would happen to me, but oh well, I was going to resign anyways, but I still need a job because we all know this village won't allow me to work for them," he said seriously, stepping away from the desk. They looked at him in shock and confusion. "What about your dream?" Tati said to him. "To be honest, this past 3 years have not only taught me a lot but made me really think about things as well. I decided why bother, because coming Hokage to this village that has scorned and hated me since birth," he said to her. "Besides, I have what I want from this village, all of my mother and father's knowledge and power. This village will never get its greedy hands on the hin or the raising gone," he told her. Both women went pale. Hearing this, he knew he was their son and now had hit the fan. "Don't freak out, I have known since I was 7 years old. The old fool thought he could continuously lie to me, plus I met the QB at age 5, so nothing really surprises me anymore," he told as he brought out one of his father's tri-pronged kai to show. "I'm sorry Naruto, Saruto-sensei made a swear never to tell you. He wanted it to be kept a secret to give you a normal life," she said sadly. "Lot of good that did when everybody else knew but me," he said with bit of resentment. They had flinched back at this, but he shrugged. "It doesn't matter, I know who I am and that's that," he said. They nodded to him, feeling like they had failed him. I still need a job. Got anything for me, he asked. She looked at him and nodded. Yes, my front desk secretary is quitting so she get married and I will be in need of. I take it. When do I start, he asked, interrupting her. She smiled at him. You start tomorrow at 6 a.m. sharp. Okay, do you know what it entails, she asked. Not all of it, but I learn as I go along. No worries boss, he said with a grin. Shisen chuckled while Sunade shook her head with an amused look at him. Really was a knucklehead. Also I want you to come live with me now. I'm not overly fond of the dump you live in, Tati said, crinkling her nose in disgust. He smiled. He had been wanting to move out anyways. Sure, I see if there's anything else I need from there before I head over. I see you later soon at Sama, he said, politely bowing to her. This shocked them both, but for some reason made Tati feel gross. Eek, don't do that, it doesn't fit you, but thank you for the respect though, she said sincerely. You're my Botan, my respect is a given. You have always been there when I needed you. You will never need to question that, or my love. Kachan, he said the last part quietly as he walked out the door, but they had heard it and got gasps from them both. So that is how he feels. How well then, know this, I will always love you, my little SOI, she said aloud as tears rolled down her face in happiness. The two were excited about him living with them now. Naruto walked back to his apartment happily unfazed by the glares or unnecessary whispers. Tati had been the closest thing to a mom he had and he was grateful to her for that. He then noticed he was being followed, so he made a couple turns here and there, finally turning around to see what looked like a box painted like a rock. Karu Sarobi, nice TR kid, but rock or not squared, he said. Obviously soon enough a small explosion was seen and heard and smoke appeared. He waited patiently till his smoke cleared till he saw Kono and his two friends. Hi boss, they said in unison. He nodded to them. How you been, he asked as he turned and head back to his apartment. The three caught up and talked for a bit, catching up. What do you mean you're not going to be Hokage, Karu said in shock. Sorry Kido, I am no longer ninja of this village, I am now the secretary of Lady Hokage herself, he stated. They looked at him in utter shock, unable to comprehend what they were being told. But you can't be, you have to take the hat so I can take it from you, Karu said weakly. Naruto could show sympathy to the young man, placing a hand on his shoulder. Not anymore, you'll have to take it from Tsunade now. It is no one's fault, things happen in life and we have to deal with what we are given, Naruto said to him sagely. The three nodded disappointedly as they left to go home. Naruto headed inside to see no one there and nothing tempered with. He went and grabbed his lock safe filled with the money he saved up over the years and took nothing else as there was nothing else there he needed. He left the keys and walked out the door, not looking back. At the same time, in IWA and Noi had found an old contract from when they and IWA became allies after the Third Shinobi War. He read it over and nodded to himself. It's time, he said as he told his secretary to get Kitsuchi in his office now. Once she did make and he spoke up to her. Pack up, we heading to Koha, he said. She looked at him like he grew a second head. What for, she said in her eyes. It's time to meet the son of the Yandhok himself, he replied. Naruto made it to the Kag mansion and began making dinner. Looking at the clock, it was 5 p.m. already as he finished up along with dessert as well when he heard the door open and three voices were speaking. He knew who it was getting dinner out along with the table set as the three came in to see the feast they had waiting. Once they all came and they each had a look about them, Shizune smiled, seeing a little brother she could depend on. Swanda saw her son and made her proud. Jiraiya was just confused as all hell. They sat down, ate and talked like a family, much to Naruto's happiness. Swanda yelled at Jiraiya, who cowered in fear. Shisen just sighed and he smiled. So this is what it's like to have a family, the boy thought. Dinner ended and he cleaned up and did the dishes, just thinking to himself when he heard someone come in. He turned and saw Wadi smiling at him. Thank you for dinner, it was delicious, she said, helping him by drying he dishes. You're welcome, tonight was nice. I never knew what it was like to be a part of something like that. I can see why now, he said looking back at the sink. Sweaty frowned. He had never had a family and she could have been there for him, but she chose to be selfish instead. She was broken out of her thoughts as Naruto spoke again. I just wished I had a family growing up. It was so hard being alone all the time, he said, closing his eyes to fight back the bitter tears. She reached over without a second thought and embraced him in a hug as he grasped her like a lifeline. I'm so sorry sweetheart, I'd give anything to go back and take that pain and emptiness away. You should never have had to deal with that, she said as she held him, letting him cry on her. He just stood there and began sobbing. The pain, the hurt, the betrayal came crashing down on him and it hurt bad. What did I do? That W was so wrong. I'm only human too, you know, he whimpered on her shoulder. Having had to be strong for so long took its toll on him. Tsunade was angry. This little boy in her arms suffered more than he deserved. To like Shisen, he was an orphan but she had her, he had no one. Off to the side, Shisen began tearing up while Jiraiya could only lower his head in disappointment and disgust. He was more damaged than they thought. The next day had come. After Naruto's breakdown, he got up and just felt empty. This village left a bad taste in his mouth now, but he was loyal Todi and Gia, so he would stay. Plus he had Ira as well, so it wasn't too bad. He got up, getting ready, putting a black muscle shirt that showed his two blue armbands with the leaf insignia, red pants tucked into black shinobi boots, and his green pocket-less battle vest with a big blue Uzumaki swirl on the back. He may be part of Koha, but he is an Uzumaki through and through. Finally putting on his pouches just in case, he looked in in the mirror having cut his hair short but still untamed. He nodded to himself, new look and new job. It was about 5:30 and he wasn't hungry, so he made a clone to make breakfast for the family as he left the house because he lived with Tsunade and Shizune. Getting to the tower was a lot easier. Opening up the door he saw his new station cleaned up. Making his way to it he checked every compartment and drawer for hidden traps and such or just miscellaneous stuff. After doing that he looked all the paperwork on his desk, filing it by date and relevance. Most of it was civilian dribble either about him or whatever. He didn't care in the least, so once that was done he went into the back room and did inventory, looking at mission statements, receipts, files on Miark as well as the of all active shinobi and retired shinobi. He even found a file of rogue ninja from the village like Orochimaru, Aoi Rokudo and Itachi Iha. After organizing that stuff, which took about an hour with shadow clones, he headed back out to his desk and began some paperwork. It was about 7:30 when a letter came from a messenger. Hawk the trainer came into the front and saw Naruto. "Hey Naruto, what are you doing here?" she asked curiously. Naruto looked up to see her and smiled. "Hello Rika-chan, I am the new front desk secretary for Bakken," he said to her. This surprised the now named Ra, but Naruto told her what had happened and she was sad for him and disappointed in the village. "I'm sorry about that," she said sincerely. He shrugged. "It doesn't matter anymore, so what do you need?" he asked. She handed him the letter. "This arrived from Iwa that Tsuchikage is coming here in a week's time to see Hokage-sama," she said. "Ha, well okay then, make sure Bakken gets this first." "Thanks Riken," he said. She nodded and smiled at him before leaving back to her post. While he went back to work finishing up he noticed it was 8:45 a.m. and Shisen opened the door and came in surprised to see so early. "Morning Naruto-kun," she said happily holding Tunin. "Morning, did you get the breakfast I made?" he asked. She nodded as Tonton squealed gleefully. "It was delicious, you're really amazing cook," she praised. He smiled at her. "Thanks, this came for Bakken. It's from Iwa that Tsuchikage is going to be here in week and this envelope came with it for her eyes only," he said, handing the letter and envelope to Shisen. Her eyes narrowed in curious concern, wondering what this could be about, but she took it from him. "Thanks, Satsama should be here in about 30 minutes, she said, heading out to start her duties for the day. Naruto sat there as he had nothing to do and he waited. The past 3 years did wonders for his patience and brashness. When the door opened and Tsunade came to see him at his post working, she smiled. He really had changed and she liked this new Naruto. "Morning Bakken," he said. She raised an eyebrow at him. "Morning, what have you been up to?" she asked. He told her he organized everything and rearranged the files and such, making it easier to find. She was shocked by this. Going into the back to see, she gasped. It was better than it had been, alphabetized and everything. She beamed at him for his work. "Thank you Naruto. Anything else?" she asked. "Yanoki is coming in week's time to speak with you about something." "Shisen has the documents in your office," he said. Her eyes narrowed, wondering what this was, as Iwa and Koha had terrible relations even as allies, but she nodded to him and went to her office. Once inside she headed to her desk and saw the documents. Opening the envelope to read what it said, her eyes went wide and her face pale. "Oh my god no," she said. She screamed. Her apprentice and assistant ran in to see what had happened and she saw her master looking pale. "Sunat-sama, what's wrong?" she asked concerned. She said nothing but gave the papers to her to read. Shisen took them and began reading. Her heart dropped and she began tearing up as she looked at her master. "Is this taste?" she stuttered out. All the slug princess could do was nod as rage seethed through her body. She looked up at Lord Third's picture with hate. "You be bastard, how could you?" she yelled in tears. The papers went back on her desk and looking at them, the ones in big letters were as follows: the marriage contract for one Naruto Uzumaki Namek and Katsuchi Ozaki. Naruto had been busy with filing some new mission statements and receipts when the door opened and in came Team 7, who just stopped talking and looked at the new secretary in front of them. Sakura and Kakashi looked shocked. Sasuke was brooding and Sai was sigh. "Naruto?" Sukuna asked. He looked up and saw them raising an eyebrow. "Can I help you Team 7?" he asked them. Most of them, like Sakura and Kakashi, were taken back by his attitude when Sai spoke. Yes, we have been summoned by Hokage-sama for something," he said to the former member. He nodded, moving to the speaker box to contact Hirat-sama. "Team 7 is here to see you," he said formally and politely, shocking them all as he was not normally like this. After a few minutes the voice on the other side spoke. "Woke up, send them up please," she said. "You heard her, go on up," he said, not sparing them another glance which still shocked them as they headed in. The 4 came in. "You called for us Hokage-sama?" Kakashi asked. "Yes, I have need of you 4 to meet the Tsuchikage and his granddaughter and escort them here," she said, shocking them. "What do they want?" Kakashi asked, narrowing his eyes at this whole thing. "We will now when they get here. Now go and pack, you leave in the hour," she said to them. They nodded and left. She didn't need to tell them anything yet. The 4 headed back down to see Naruto doing some more paperwork. "Why you working here?" Dove realized you could make it as a shinobi. Sasuke taunted, hoping to sting him where it hurts, but nothing. As he put down his pencil he looked up them emotionless. "No, I just realized this village isn't worth bleeding for anymore. Plus I know about your little petition. To be honest, I'm not hurt by it. I'm glad those who abandoned their comrades are worse than scum. Now then, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do and I am sure Hokage-sama has need of you for whatever." "Good day," he replied, going back to his work. The 4 stood silent. Sasuke fumed as his taunted nothing. Sakura looked upset by it all and Kakashi lowered his head. "Kind of hurt hurt by the remark while Sai was just Sai. They all left to go do their job without another word as they figured Naruto had no more reason to speak to them. A couple hours passed by when the door opened again and Team 8 and 10 came in but froze when they saw someone new working behind the desk, but their back was turned. But whoever he is was tall and built like a brick wall. Ino and Hinata blushed while Kini looked at them amused as Asuma just shook his head. The figure turned around showing the face of Naruto, making them all tense up. Realizing it was the friend whose dream they helped crush, Shikamaru just muttered, "Troublesome, can I help you?" Teams 8 and 10, he asked them as he grabbed files for Lady Hokage. They were surprised by his attitude till Kini spoke. "Sorry, Hokage-sama wished to speak to our teams about something," she said. He nodded to her and repeated the same process for Team 7. "Tunit-sama, Teams 8 and 10 are here to see you," he said politely and formally, which shocked them all, especially Ino, Hinata, Kba and Choji. "Send them up please." Shiseido heard, "My lady, don't keep her waiting," he said as he began walking up the stair to deliver some files to her. The teams followed suit while Hinata and Choji were sweating like crazy. Truthfully, Naruto didn't care anymore. He didn't see Hinata romantically anymore, so it is no concern to him. As he knocked on the door with yell, he opened the door and walked in with both teams. "Here are the files for today's missions, and just to let you know, the civilians are whining about wanting the seal passes to the Yandame's home and knowledge again," he said in an irritated voice. She scoffed. "Let them __. They will never get it. If they ask again, tell them to come see me," she said to him, taking the files. He nodded to "Here's ma'am," he said before leaving. Both Asuma and Karini were shocked by this. He had changed drastically. He wasn't loud, obnoxious. Nothing. It was like he was a whole new person. "Okay teams, that such a gauge is coming in a week's time to speak to me about something. Team 7 is escorting them. I want you to be on patrol for the next few days to keep things in check," she said to them. They nodded Ed to her and left, heading back downstairs again only to see Naruto getting some mail from the postmaster. "See you later, Naruto," he said, walking away. The team stood there for a moment wondering what they should do while Karini and Asuma stood off to the side wanting to see how this played out. And Naruto," Hinata said quietly. For a few seconds he said nothing, then looked up at them. "Is there something you need, Miss Hugasan?" he asked her with a monotone, polite voice. This shocked them all. No Hinchin or being angry at them. "Are you okay?" she asked him, feeling like her 12-year-old self again. He sighed. "I am so far from okay. It's not even funny anymore, but I will live. But know this, you're not my friend anymore. I'm not mad about the fact you couldn't tell me you'd rather be with Akamaiki-san, but what I am pissed about it the fact you helped sign a piece of paper taking away the only I had my dream. For that I might not forgive you. Now if you are done wasting my time, leave," he said, his eyes flash of blood red before going back to normal. Terrified, they nodded and left without another word. His words had stung. It was true, they had helped destroy his dream. Originally they had signed to help take him off Team 7 even, but once they found the truth they knew they couldn't go back. They had nodded and left without a word, much like Team 7. Even while the senses were kind of surprised by his attitude. "You okay, kid?" Suma asked. He nodded. "Yes, I simply know where I stand in this V village now and won't tolerate its hate or prejudice against me anymore. Besides, I'd rather be hated for what I am than loved for what I am not," he explained. They were caught off guard by his words but nodded and left as well. Team 7 had made it to meet that Suchak Cage, his granddaughter, and Atsuchi at the halfway point. "Greeting, I am Kakashi Hatake, leader of Team 7. We're here to escort you to Koha," he said, bowing to the aged Kag. "Much thanks," Atsuchi said. The group of 7 left on as they had a while before they made it to the leaf. "So how come you're meeting with Lady Tsunade?" Sakura asked. In this, Sasuke came back willingly after Orochimaru gave him the power he needed, so Sakura never went to see Tsunade about training. "A contract between myself and the Sand Dame. You will know more later, but it deals with my granddaughter and one of Koha's prodigal sons," he said cryptically. This got their attention but said nothing as they still had a mission to complete, but it made them think, better not be my Sasuke, and that stone girl is not good enough for him. Sakura thought, glancing at Katsuchi. "Has to be me after all. I am he best the leaf has to offer." Sasuke thought smugly. "I have to ask Naruto about some new seals for my jutsus." Thought, walking along, "One of Koha's prodigal sons, huh? Hopefully it's not Sasuke, maybe Shikamaru." Kakashi wondered to himself. "Naruto Uzumaki Namek, wonder what he'll be like. Hopefully not like the Iha. His arrogance makes me sick. I am excited to meet him though," she mused to herself. She tired to look for him in the bingo book but no luck. Inoki just smirked. "His spies have found the boy has both physical and mental strength, and from the other reports will be a good match for his grandbaby." So he was excited to meet him as they continued on through Fire Country. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. It was mealtime and Tsunade, Shizune and Naruto were eating in her office and talking, but Tussin looked like she wanted to cry. Naruto noticed this. "What's wrong, Kon?" he asked. She looked at him, wiping away a few tears. She spoke. "Naruto, I found out why Inoue is coming. Apparently Minato and Sarutobi-sensei made a marriage contract between you and his granddaughter Katsuchi, she said. His eyes widened to a huge degree. This was new to him, but for the life of him couldn't figure out why this was happening. Wait, you mean to tell me that he lied to me about my heritage but willingly told a man who probably hates my father more than anything, and I am marrying his granddaughter, he said lightly. She nodded to him. He simply shrugged and went back to eating, making the face fault. Is that it? You're not upset or angry? Shisen asked, taking a bite of his food. He looked at her. To be honest, no, I can't. I am actually excited to meet them and to get a gauge of Lady Katsu's character. Sure, the old man may have lied to me, but he must have had faith in me to put this together for me and in her. Besides, we all know that out of the rookies 1010 is the prettier one who I would even bother with, but she loves me and I respect that, and no girl will ever really like me in this village anyways, he stated to them. His word for the most part rang true, but were surprised about 1010 though. Really, you like Tenon? Tati asked, forgetting her inner turmoil. She works hard at her craft, takes her career seriously, and is quite good looking to boot. I respect women of her caliber as well. You both, Hana Inuzuka, Anko Mirashi, Karina Yuhi and Yuga Yuzuki and the bunch, they aren't fangirls, they are warriors who fight and bleed for their homes and lives. It is with that conviction and drive I can be proud to call comrade, he said passionately, making his surrogate mother and sister very proud of him. Unbeknownst to them, Yuga was there in the shadows listening the whole. She couldn't help but smile at his praise and words. The fact he thought so highly of females that we, despite his upbringing, showed her his character, and she was glad for it. I can't wait to tell the girls tonight, she mused to herself at her post. Team 7 along with the TAGE and his companions finally made it to the Leaf and headed inside the village to see Sunade, as they had made good time getting. As it was now 12 p.m. the villagers were in a subtle frenzy, wondering what the Sage was doing here. The group made it to the tower and opened the door to see Naruto at the front desk. The minute he saw them, Suede-sama, Team S and the Sage are here, he said into the speaker. Not a minute after she was heard, send them up. Standing to show his hulking stature, he nodded for them to follow and he opened the door. Ah, good, you're here Team 7, you're free to go. Naruto, please stay, she said to them all. They all looked at her strangely. But isn't he here for one of Koha's prodigies? Sakura asked, confused. Inoki nodded to her, saying it was okay to speak about it. You're half right, Sakura, he is here for a prodigy, but one in particular, the son of the wide Dame Hokage, she said. The team was stunned silent. You could hear a pin drop. Naruto simply smiled, looking at their guests. Sorry about that, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namek, son of the Yan Dame and holder of the 9 tails. He bowing to them. Naruto stood straight back, looking at not only their guests who were intrigued by him, but his former team, who looked both shocked and confused. So you're Minato's boy? Got to say I am impressed, but why did no one know about you? And Noi asked. Simple, my lord, such a cage I hold. The Nenettles Lord Third felt it necessary to hide me just in case of unwanted backlash because of the Third War, but now the secret will be revealed, he said politely to him. Inoki nodded while Katsuchi stares at him with a light blush on her cheeks. Oh my goodness, he is beautiful, so polite and kind, to nothing like the Iha mama likes, she said internally, at the same time licking her lips. In her mind, you must be Lady Katsuchi, a pleasure to meet you, and I hope I can make your time here in Koha a wonderful experience, he said, giving her a bow as well. She couldn't speak, he had taken her breath away. She nodded unconsciously, giving her gloved hand to him. He took it and kissed the back graciously, giving her a genuine smile. Pleasure is all mine, I assure you, she said with a slight stutter. Wait a minute, what is going on here? Kakashi asked, really confused, and Noi spoke up. It was after the war when Iwa went to make peace with Koha and Sunakumo was in the grip of civil war, and Kiri had just put into place their Yame. Myself, my son and my daughter-in-law came to see your Yan Dame and San Dame for peace talks. Meeting with Minato off the battlefield was simply a pleasure, as was his wife Lady Uzumaki. They were humble but strong. My son and Minato had a shared love of seals, while my daughter and Kusha shared their love of food and cooking. They had got along so well they had the idea for the marriages first, he said, shocking them all. After it was done, they had kept in contact through the next couple years. When it was discovered both my daughter and Kusa were pregnant at the same time, but we never got the chance to visit again as the Q attack had happened, so we stayed away for fear of placing blame and starting up that horror again. We had been told both you and your parents had been killed, but Sarubi, who took the hat back, gave us news that you were alive and well, so we waited. Now here we are. He told them all. This was a shock to all of them. Well, now I'm glad Hinata and I are no longer together, Naruto said nonchalantly. Please, this clanless loser has nothing and can't hold a candle to an elite like me, Sasuke said arrogantly. Even though no one cared, Naruto just turned to him and raised an eyebrow. I still beat your ass at the valley. The only reason you won is because using the Kyuubi's chakra is taxing on my body. He turned back, not seeing the look of anger in Sasuke's eyes. Shut up, Yaka, you will never be Sasuke Kwan equal. Stop trying to act cool, Sakura shouted. You're right, I'll never be his equal, cause I am his better. Besides, I have something you don't: humility, integrity, honor, and the strength to back up my talk. Before this could get heated, Tsunade had had enough. Team 7, leave now, your mission is over, she barked out, getting them to listen. Kakashi took them and left, shock and unbelief on his face. This was insane to think about. With Team 7 gone, they could speak freely about the contract, but Katsuchi had her eyes on Naruto. If there are any questions, please feel free to to ask, he stated to her, wanting her to be comfortable around him. Yes, we must talk about the contract since it is you two who have to deal with it. We want to know what you want to. Dodie spoke up. Both teens looked at each other, but Naruto spoke up first. Well, to be honest, I have no real issue with it, but I do have to be honest with you. You technically going to be the first real relationship I have ever had. Are you okay with? He asked her. She looked at him with wide eyes. You have never been in a relationship before? She asked curiously. He nodded to her. I was seeing a girl before I left, but we never kissed or held hands, so she doesn't count. Also, I am not a virgin either, he said honestly to her. They heard a desk crack and saw Tsunade's eyes glow red. Even Inoue was a bit unnerved by this. What did that pervert do? She said through gritted teeth. Naruto put his hands up to quell his angered mother. No, it was him. It was after Hinata stopped talking to me I had went into a depressed spry. I was actually going to kill myself. He stopped when he heard the gasps but continued on. I had a feeling she was done with me, but it still hurt. Plus the village. I had a moment of clerical weakness and just wanted it to all end. Gia had been drinking with some girls he found, and my depression hit me. I felt worthless. I stood off on a cliff facing the ocean. I was going to jump and let it all go. Dee had a shock expression as she could see the pain and hurt on face. It brought her to tears, as did Shizune. Katsuchi felt bad for him. She hadn't realized how deep it went for him, but a voice stopped me. She was just some random women who saw me and stopped to talk to me. I explained my problem and she listened, like genuinely listened to me. Most people either wanted nothing to do with me or people like Kakashi just tuned me out. It felt nice to be heard for once. She was really pretty but had her own sadness. One thing lead to another and it happened. I woke up on the cliff face alone and never saw her again. He said to them, has it always been like this for you? Katsuchi asked, now shedding her own tears. More than I would like to admit. Having had a mask on for my own survival and safety, I forgot who I really was for a long time, he said to her with a sad smile, wiping away her tears. She steeled herself and spoke, then I think I can live with that. Naro, you fascinate me. You're like no guy the first have ever met before. I think I want a few dates first before we make this contract official, she said, walking up to him, taking a hand. He smiled at her brightly and genuinely. I would like that too. You're pretty, but you also look strong and have an attitude I can appreciate and respect. I would like nothing more than to get to know you better, and the idea of getting married doesn't seem so scary now, he replied to her in kind. Both Inoue and Tsunade were quite shocked by this, but were glad it worked out in the end. Yuga had gotten off her shift and went home to get ready for the night. She made her way into the door to see he at there doing some cleaning. She smiled at him. By some miracle Naruto had been out that night and walked up on Baki in a couple sounding corner. He making several clones. He caused a distraction allowing him to escape with he to the hospital where he made a full recovery. Plus they found what was wrong with him. Someone had managed to leave a note with details stating his condition and he was healed by Tsunade. When she came back she never found out who it was but was grateful for it nonetheless. Her man was safe and alive and they had gotten married after the invasion. Hi honey, he said, walking up to kiss her. Greetings aside, she told him about her day and the news, which shocked him a little bit. Well, what do you know? I always knew he was special, he said aloud, and now he is marrying Eva's stone princess. Who would have thought? She said. The couple got cleaned up and headed out for the night. Tomorrow was going to be a busy day for everyone. Naruto and Katsuchi had taken off to go on sort of a blind date to get a feel for things, holding his arm out for her like a gentleman. She graciously took it and off they went. Having changed attire they headed out to Hokage Mount. He put on a white button-up shirt, black pants and black high tops. Kuro had on a maroon blouse, black long flowing skirt and maroon strappy sandals showing off her maroon color nails. She had teased up her hair a bit as she kept eye short for when she was on missions. The couple talked and laughed while on their way was seen by all the villagers who looked at them, him with both glares and weariness, her with confusion. Why is the stone princess here? What is she doing with the demon? Do you think he brainwashed her? Katsuchi was getting really annoyed by the remarks, but she looked at Naruto, who gave her a smile. Don't let it bother you. Their words mean nothing to me, so they shouldn't mean anything to you either. Besides, they're getting a rude awakening tomorrow. He smirked at her. She smirked back, leaning into him. Oh yeah, this guy is going to be loads of fun, she thought, biting her lip. The couple had made it to the spot Naruto told her about and saw he a picnic ready for them with a nice fluffy blanket and couple pillows against a rock looking out over the village. She gasped and looked at him. Did you really set this up for us? She asked him. He nodded. I figured, why go to a restaurant where we would have to listen to other whisper about me and you when we could have peace and quiet up and get to know each other better, he said to opening up the basket to bring the food out. She turned away with a blush. She had never been treated this well before. Most guys just looked at her for her name and reputation, not caring about her feelings at all, and most of the guys in IWA were pretty much losers in her eyes, but this guy made her feel a real girl. If he kept this up she would marry him soon enough. They unpacked the food and sat and ate, talking about their lives and missions and such. So Naruto-kun, what was your first mission like? She asked, taking a bit of barbecue, slurping up some noodles. He spoke. My first mission was to protect a bridge builder from Kumi no Hai. It was a standard SE rank but became in a rank, he told her. Her eyes widened. She had heard about this mission. Wait, you mean that was your team who fought Zabuza Mochi? She almost almost yelled. He nodded to her with a chuckle. Yeah, it was also where I met my first real friend Hakumochi, adopted daughter of Zabuza, he said, thinking back on it. Oh really now, she said curiously, a hint of teasing in there. Nothing like that, but she helped teach me on of the most important lesson ever. The path to true strength is only plausible when you have something or someone precious to protect. I still live by that to this day, he said to her. She gave him an impressed look and he made her think about it as well. Naruto, am I precious to you? She asked him offhand without even thinking. He nodded. Yesu Tsunade Kon Shisen Iya Sensei and a few other are very important to me. I consider you precious because you took the time to want to get to know me rather than ignore and forget about me like most do, he said with an infectious bright smile that made Kitsuchi feel really special. With Tsunade and Inoi Shizune and Anashi had left to go outside while Tsunade Inoki and the recently returned Jia spoke. We need to talk about something important, the Hokage said, and Noi nodded as she spoke again. Naruto isn't a ninja of this village anymore. Yesterday the council behind my back made a petition to have removed from the roster. His former made a petition to remove him from Team 7. They both went through. Naruto is the first child of royalty, not in a shinobi profession, and he is no longer welcome here. As much as it pains me due to this because I just adopted him as my son, would you be willing to take him and make him an IWA shinobi? She asked with tears in her eyes. Both men looked at her in shock as this never happened before, but then again there was no one like Naruto either, and Noi placed a hand on her shoulder looking at her with sympathy. I think I can do that. My granddaughter is smitten with him and he shows to care for her as well, plus this will help bridge our nations a bit closer this time, he said to her, giving him a watery smile. She nodded. Then tomorrow reveal his heritage and tell them of this outcome, he said, getting up and walking to the door. I shall see you tomorrow, Tsunade, and for what it's worth I'm sorry. He left after that to go to his hotel room to eat. Once Gaddy ran to Jia and cried. She just made the hardest decision ever and it hurt her. Jiraiya just held her, comforting his love as she wept for Naruto. Did I do the right sniff thing, Jiraiya? She asked him weakly. He gently tightened his grip on her. As much as I don't want to say it, you did, sweetheart, you did. Good, he said. She sobbed into his chest, feeling her heart break. Oh Naraku, and please forgive me, she quietly begged, hoping he wouldn't be mad at her for this. 4x Naruto and Katsuchi had made it back the hotel room holding hand. Their evening had been a hit for both and knew this would work. Standing in front of the door they stood looking at each other. I had wonderful time, Koro-chan, thank you for spending the day with me, he said. She smiled and nodded. Thank you for tonight, this has been the best date ever. You really are a wonderful guy, she said sincerely. She had turned to go in but he held her hand, making her jerk back to look at him as he placed a soft kiss on her cheek. Her eyes closed as his lips were like clouds on her face. She closed her eyes as their hands interlocked and nothing else mattered. In that moment she felt a shiver go up her spine. Her heart began racing and she could feel his too. He came back from it. I'll see you tomorrow, Kurohime, he said gently. This time he was going to leave but she gripped his hand this time, making him turn to her, where she grabbed his face and planted a kiss on his lips, shocking him, but it didn't last long as he got into it and grabbed her waist, deepening the kiss. That was the moment the two would always look back on fondly as the moment they both fell in love with each other. Meanwhile, several of the ladies of Koha who had been watching them for a while were giggling and silently squealing. Karini looked at Anko. Holy crap, that was tense, she said. Yuga just smiled. If anyone deserves it, it's him. Besides, he thought we amazing not only as women but shinobi, she said to them. Hana raised an eyebrow. Damn, he seems like a good kisser. Too bad he is already taken, she said, blushing as both Anko and Yuga chuckled at her while Kini blushed at the thought. Naruto made it home only to hear sobbing. Walking up to the living room he saw Wadi looking depressed. This made him angry. Who had the gall to make his mother cry was going to pay Kaden. Are you okay, he asked gently, coming into view. She looked up at him in surprise, not expecting him, quickly wiping away the tears. And no, I'm okay, she said, but failed to sound convincing. No, you're not, I can see it. Please tell me what wrong, he said quickly, coming to her side. She looked down. Please don't hate me, but trading you to IWA. She closed her eyes, waiting for the anger. He was surprised by this but began grinning. This made him happy. Thank you, he said, hugging her. Much to her shock, she was stopped. Look, I love you so much. You have been one of my only saving graces, much like Jia sensei, Shisen Ira sensei and the Oraku, but to be perfectly honest, my heart doesn't beat for Koha. I will always remain loyal to you, the old perv, and the others here who stood by my side, but I'm ready to go and see where my life will go and be with Kurochan, he said, smiling at her. She just looked at him. The relief hit her and she just felt like crying again but smiled instead. I'm going to miss you so much, brat. You really have made my life worthwhile again. Thank you, she said gratefully. They embraced in a hug like mother and son would. Thank you for being the mother I never got to have. Thank you so much. You will know how grateful I am, or how much you mean to. I love so much, mama. He began to tear up. I know, sweetie, she said as they stayed there embraced. Shizune was in tears as well, watching while Jiraiya looked on proudly at his student. If only both of you could, your boy, you'd be so proud, he thought happily. The next day had come. It was still fairly early in the day, but Naruto knew this was his last day in Koha. He would the Hokage mountain as well. Sadie, Shizune, Jia, Iya, Anko, Yuga, Karini, Asuma. He and Team Guy has not met Yam, but deep down he was ready for this. Even though he just got a mother, he was still ready to go. Standing at his window he looked to see the sunrise and he smiled as he loved both sunrise and sunset, but now he would be seeing them in a different village. So today I become a member of IWA. Who would have thought, he said to himself. Well, I think you found something good here, kid, don't lose it, Gia's voice said behind him. He turned to see his master SLFA figure and smiled at him. I won't, but that doesn't mean I won't miss you though, you gave me so much and mean so much to me, he said to him, wanting the old man to know. Jiraiya could only smile at him. I am still your master, that will never change, but you also became the grandson I never had, so no kid, thank you. Jiraiya spoke truthfully. Nutcase smile became sad a bit. I wish I had gotten to know you sooner, I think my life would been better for it to san, he said as a stray tear left his eye. He had become very emotional the last few days with his life changing so fast he didn't get a chance to mourn it, but no time like the present. Jiraiya felt some tears hit his face as he came up and hugged his brat like Tsunade. Naruto had left an impression on his heart and loved the boy like a son since Minato had long passed away. Thank you for everything, Naruto said, hugging the old man. I know, but thank you too, he replied genuinely. It was one of the many wonderful moments Naruto would take with him to IWA. As the pair broke away and Naruto got ready for the day as well as packing up his stuff, after he was done he looked around and smiled before leaving. Making his way downstairs he saw everybody awake at the table drinking coffee. Tsunade saw him first and smiled at her. Son, hi Soy, she said. Hi Kachan, how are you, he asked. I'm better now, she said truthfully. They had breakfast as a family and it was a moment they would always look back on. They were a real family. A heartbroken woman, an orphan girl, a lonely man and an abused and depressed boy had become a real family and they wouldn't look back. The four had headed out as it was now 10:30 a.m. and there was still quite a bit to do today and they would be revealing the secret in 2 hours. Sodi had Umu begin to gather the village to Hokage Tower while Naruto went to retrieve the IWA delegation and bring them to her office. Inoki grumbled because he was sitting on top of Atsuchi's shoulder again, being a stubborn old man, while Katsuchi leaned into Naruto holding his arm, walking behind them giggling at her grandfather. After last night she was sure she loved him. He was exciting and fun to be around. His attitude and character showed her he was a man of honor, integrity, but also had a caring heart and knew how to be romantic, and he could her blush and feel like the butterflies in her stomach would just break out. She was in love with him and he made it known he was too. They four made it to the tower. Once inside someone had his spot as the secretary. She had blonde hair and glasses. She saw them all and stood up. Hello, my name is Makira Yamanaka, pleasure to meet you, she said bowing. They all nodded to her, but when she saw Naruto she spoke. Naruto-san, may I speak to you please, she asked. He nodded to her as Katsuchi unlatched herself from his arm and headed up to see her future mother-in-law. What is it, he asked. I want to apologize for my cousin Ino and Uncle Inoue. It was wrong of them. Have you removed from the Leaf roster, she said, but was stopped. It's okay, I'm not mad anymore. Thank you for taking the time to apologize, but you're not in the wrong, okay, he said to her with a smile. She was taken back by this but nodded at this. Thank you, she replied. Even though I am no longer a Leaf shinobi, I want to extend my hand to you in friendship. Miss Yamanaka, you have a good head on your shoulders and a good heart as well, and I am glad to be able to speak to you right now, he said to her. She beamed at him. Friends, Mr. Uzumaki Namek, she said, breaking the handshake. He turned and walked up the stairs to go see the others. It's 12:30 came and now the whole village was there for this major announcement from Lady Hokage herself. The rookie 12 minus Naruto stood there with their clans and families all taking amongst themselves, wondering what this is about, while the civilian council began bitching about having to hear it. I wonder what Lady Tsunade is going to say, Sakura asked, curious about it, having forgotten about yesterday. Maybe it has to do with the Tsuchage and his granddaughter, Ino said, being the gossip queen. Hinata was quite the whole time. What Naro said rang true and it hurt. She had come to realize she didn't love him like she thought, but she could have ended it better than to help take away his dream. He hadn't tried to talk to her anymore and it stung. She loved Choi without a doubt, but still she missed her first real friend. It had been the same with Choji. Besides Shikamaru, Naruto had been a real friend to him as well, not making fun of his weight, and had gone to a Chiraka with him. Sasuke on the other hand was fuming. The do was more important than him. This was a heresy in his eye that he would not tolerate, so he would his time and wait to strike at the do, showing them all he was the best, even though he had both Sakura and Ino at his back. And Call Tsunade and Inoki had appeared on top of the tower watching them talk about what was happening. Inoki smirked. This would be a blow to them, while Tsunade smirked at what they threw away using the vocal enhancement jutsu. She spoke, people of Koha, today I bring you news as both Koha and IWA have cemented our alliance with a marriage between the Princess of Stone Katsuchi. They all watched. Katsuchi walked up next to an arms at her side and she was smiling, none of them realizing it just yet that everything was about to change. Her husband to be is a son of the Leaf our very own Yandame son and my adopted son, heir to the Uzumaki clan and last of the Namek namesake Naruto Uzumaki Namek, she stated proudly. The crowd went silent as they saw Naruto walking up next to Kurochi wearing a black shirt with the sleeves folded up to the elbows with blue armbands with the leaf in insignia on his biceps, blood red pants with black shinobi boots, a green battle vest with a giant blue Uzumaki swirl with a brown belt with 2 brown pouches for his weapons. His hair was wild and untamed in the wind. Then all hell broke loose as the civilians were shouting and yelling about the lies and how he was a filthy monster while he, Rookie 12, was shocked by this revelation while many on the council were absolutely surprised. Silence. He is not only their son but mine too, and it was Minato who made this marriage along with Sage Sama. Now because this village removed him from the shinobi roster, he is now a free agent and the sage has taken him. Naruto Uzumaki Namek is now a shinobi of IWA while the civilians who refused to believe the shinobi along with the council were shocked. The heir of the Yandame was now an IWAN. Team 7 had various reactions. Kakashi went pale and was lost in his own mind. Naruto was his sensei's son and was going to IWA. He didn't know what to think or do anymore. Sasuke gritted his teeth. The dough was more important than him. This was an outrage. Sakura felt her soul leave her body thinking about all the times she treated him like crap, hated his very existence. Now to find out he is the Yandame's son and an IWA who was engaged to the Stone Princess. Sai was just glad to get those seals beforehand. He never really had an interaction with him before so he could really gauge accordingly. The others minus the sensei and several other J were in the same boat. Ino went pale at the thought of it all. Shikamaru shook his head and sighed about how troublesome the blonde was. Choi and Hinata fainted. KBA couldn't believe it. Shino nodded to him. Unlike the others, was more astute and had not signed the petition by choice. Ni couldn't believe his eyes and ears. The one who defeated him held a bigger burden than he did. He nodded to him in respect. Tenten blushed but also had heard what he said about her and was glad she made him her friend before the end came. Names she came to appreciate his approach in life. Lee began crying for his friend. How youthful my friend Naruto is, like an explosion, Lee shouted in his good guy pose. At the same time a former IW sneezed. Someone must be agreeing about how art is an explosion. Much to his partner's annoyance, Naruto nodded to Lee and got in his own good guy pose. May the flames of youth shine bright beyond the setting of the rising sun. Naruto yelled back to him. Soon enough Guy got involved and their jinjutsu set in. Naruto made a couple clones, turning the people next to him rapidly. Don't look, he said to them as horrified screams of pain were heard, making Naruto evilly snicker as they all turned to see many on the ground while others looking like they just witnessed a tailed beast. Tati finished up laughing and then the announcement so they could help get these people back up. When Sasuke spoke up, I call __. On all this, you're just a clan's loser. Why they would have you marry her is a mystery when she could have an elite, he said smugly while many civilians nodded in agreement. Because you can't be Ashin, I fought him to a standstill, Naruto replied back, shocking everyone. Sasuke activated his Shingen, his bloodlust leaking out. Damn, that was a low blow, Anko stated. He, the Iha deserves it, he needs to be brought down a peg. Asuma said, has he never cared for the Iha brat? What did you say, loser? Sasuke gritted through his teeth. I said you can't beat Achi and I beat your ass. The valley strength comes from the need to protect what is precious, not revenge. You may be this village's golden child but I will always be better than you because I know no one is lesser than me, and many I have met in this life have been amazing people and warriors, especially the many kunoichi, he said nonchalantly. Sasuke saw red as he made a few hand signs and charged at Naruto. The only worthless loser here is you, he screamed, charging him just as he made in front of him. Much to shocked looks and screaming, Naruto stood in front of Katsuchi protectively as he grabbed Sasuke's hand, pushing the Chidori into the ground. Much to Sasuke's shock, normally I wouldn't have cared but you threatened my H and that I won't tolerate that, especially from you, he said, letting him go as he chopped the back of his neck, knocking him out. The entire village was in shock. Naruto took down Sasuke in one hit and made it look like it was nothing. After Sasuke was taken to the hospital, things calmed down. Well, if that's all we need to get going, Inoki said to them all. They nodded and left as the crowd dispersed while Tsunejiya and Shizune with Tantan escorted Naruto and the IWA delegation to the front gate where they were met by Iya, Yumo, Anko, Mitarashi, Yuga, Yuzuki, Hadi, Giko, Asuma, Sarobi, Karina, Yuhi and Team Guy. What are you all doing here? Naruto asked curiously. We came to see you off. Despite of this village you have our respect, he said. Naruto nodded to him, walking up to the girls Asuma, Heat and Iya. Hey, you take good care of them, you never know when it will be last time, and instead spending time with them you just have their memory. Besides, I doubt you'll find ladies as awesome as them, he said to the guys. Asuma nodded to Heat. Kiss on then temple while Irika blushed. How, he asked. Naruto just tapped his nose. I just have a hunch, he said before hugging Ira. Thank you, a sensei, he said. Iya was shocked for a minute but hugged him back. You're my best student and my favorite kid I ever had in my class. Thank you for everything, Naruto Ia said to him. They broke as he went up to Anko and hugged her as well, much to her shock. Take care of him, okay, he said. She hugged him back full force. You bet, and thanks for always standing up for me, kid. I miss you, she said with a genuine smile, feeling very close to her fellow outcast, glad to know he cared about her too. He nodded to her, breaking away, looking at Korini and Yuga. Thanks for helping me when I needed it, and thank you for being you. I hope for the best for you both as well, he said to them. They were surprised but smiled gratefully at him and nodded. Same to you, take care of her and be good, Yuga said while Korai nodded to him. He then looked at Tsunade, Jiraiya and Shizune. You three have meant so much. Like Ira, I don't think I would be here if not for you. I love you all so much, he said to them with sincerity. Both women came up and hugged him one last time. We love you, sweetie, just don't forget about us, okay? Tsunade said. I would never dream of it, he said, kissing her cheek, and Shisen as well. Letting go, he pet Tunin, who squealed in delight at the lovely touch to her skin. The party waved one last time and then headed out to IWA and whole new adventure. The group had made it to IWA but took longer as they were in no hurry to get there, but that was an adventure itself. We see Inoi, Atsushi, Katsuchi and Naruto had made it to the front gates. The two gate guards saw their leader and princess come back, but with some blonde man with them. He had two blue armbands with leaf insignias and he looked similar to the Yand Hokage. Greetings, Tama, halt, stranger one said. He did as Inoki spoke. Relax, this here is Naruto Uzumaki Namek. He is now a part of IWA, the old man stated. The guards' eyes widened, especially when they said his last name. He was his son. Their eyes darkened and were about to speak, but Naruto cut them off. Lady Katsuchi, and I fought, I lost, and I am now her servant. I mean now harm, as I am under her control, he said, bowing to them. Inoki and Katsuchi looked at him in shock, but the guards looked pleased by this. Right, you may pass, but know this, dog, make one wrong move and you won't live to regret it. One spat at him. He nodded and they all went inside. Babe, why did you do that? Katsuchi asked. He looked at her. Because they, like most of this village, I suspect, hate my father for the losses he committed, so I have to tread lightly here, and plus they will all find out soon. It's just better to be your slave for now, he said to her with a smile. She looked at him sadly but nodded, as it was still true. Most of her village hated the Yand more than his village, but Naruto was a good man and she would make sure they all knew it. That was a brave thing you did, my boy. I'm sorry to say that it won't be easy here for you. Inoi said. Well, have someone more precious than myself to protect, he said, taking his eyes away from Inoi to look at his Kurohime. She blushed at his words while the old man gave them a smile. It did him good to know he could rest now that he had a worthy man to protect his beloved granddaughter. All the while all of the civilians saw them with this newcomer as he looked like the Yellow Flash himself. Most were shocked by this, especially since he was so close to their princess. Who is that? He looks like the Yellow Flash. What is his intent with our princess? Whispers and other things like that were heard, but he didn't let them get to him. He had heard it all before back in Koha. Luckily no one else had anything to say or reason to cause trouble yet, so they made it the Kagate Tower with relative ease. Once inside, he bid Atsushi goodbye and sent him home, leaving the three alone in his office. Well, now it's time to make you an official member of IWA, so tomorrow I will have some of my best fight to gauge your power and see where you belong. Well, if it helps, I was only a Janine in Koha, so yeah, he said to deadpan, and Noi sighed and Katsuchi sweat dropped when the door opened up and in came a man with dark hair and a scar along his face on the left side. He looked to be about Atsuchi height. Even thought Naruto was bigger by 2 feet but more muscle than fat, but he held an air of arrogance and disrespect. Hey old man, you're back. Oh hey babe, didn't see you there, he said smugly as he walked over to Katsuchi and put an arm over her shoulder. Inoki glared at him while Katsuchi felt uncomfortable. Hey there, but she doesn't want you touching her, so back off there, guy, Naruto said to him. Han aka Earth Beast looked at this worm like he was unconvinced, even thought he had to look up a bit. And you are, he said rudely. Naruto Uzumaki Name, her fiancé and bodyguard, he said, removing his hand and grabbing her to move her behind him. Earth Beast just looked at in shock, then in anger. You mean to tell me this loser is her fiancé? Not only that, but his son nonetheless, he spay angrily. Yes, the contract was made when they were conceived and nothing can change that, Inoki stated. Really? Then I challenge this nerd for her hand, he said smugly. Fine, I accept tomorrow at the stadium, Naruto said, walking up to him. Don't blame me when you lose, he said sagely. Fine, see you tomorrow, loser. Beating you will make me the most famous person on all of IWA, he said, leaving out the door. Naruto sighed when he felt his flap across his face. He looked to see a pissed Katsuchi. What the hell, Naro, how could you do that? He could really hurt you. He is crazy strong. I don't want to lose you, she said as angry and fearful tears crept down her face. He smiled at her. I want because I have something worth fighting for, and I wasn't going to let him disrespect your honor like that, Maichi, he said to her. She threw herself into his arms. I just don't want to lose you. I love you, Yubaka, she quietly said to him as he hugged her back, kissing her head. Inoki smiled at them. Umo, make sure the stadium is ready for tomorrow, he said. Naruto, you can stay here in the tower tonight. Even Katsuchi can stay the night with him, he said as it was now dark out and the old man had finished up the paperwork. Katsuchi beamed and showed him where they would be staying tonight. There was a special apartment made in case. She opened up the door to it and they went inside and was very nick looking too. They got settled in for the night as as Naruto made dinner for them. She used this place from time to time, so she had clothing there. She had set the table and sat there as dinner was finished up. It was a recipe she had never seen before. "What's that, babe?" she asked. He turned to her. "An old Uzumaki recipe. Take fish and pork, added 2 rice inside dumplings," he said to her. She was surprised but nodded at him, but she felt sad. Her home was the reason he is the last of his kind, yet he held no anger towards her or her home. But then again, his home hated him, so it was a strange dichotomy. Dinner was put on the table and she took her first bite and was lost to flavor. Her eyes glazed over as the euphoria of deliciousness. Naruto just smiled at her as he ate, and they had a wonderful night of eating and talking. Once dinner was over, Naruto cleaned up and did the dishes, much to Katsuchi's shock. He was more than she felt like she deserved. Though the couple got ready for bed, she wore a red nightie that didn't hide much to the imagination, while Naruto put on orange orang shirts and a blue tank showing off his scars. Not that Kitsuchi minded. The couple got into the bed with Kuro laying her head in Naruto's chest. He wrapped his arms around her and she felt safe, protected, loved, wanted. Listening to his heartbeat made her eyes heavy as she yawned. "Good night, Haim, I love you," he said. She looked up at him smiling. "I love you too, my guardian." They shared a small kiss and fell asleep in each other's embrace. It was the next day and the news had been spread that Minato's son was in IWA and the local hero Earth Beast had challenged him for Katsuchi hand. The stadium was filled in the Earth Dao was there, wanting to see what the son of the Yellow Flash could do. As he made his way over to Inoi, "Good day, Inoi-san." The old Dao said, "Good day to you as well," he said as he saw his son and daughter-in-law appear. "Hello, my children," he said happily. "Hi, Dad." "Hello, Father," they said, sitting down. In the hands they all saw Earth Beast in his IWAJ and attire. The opposite side was Naruto wearing a black shirt with the sleeves folded up to his elbows, blood-red pants with black shinobi boots, and his green battle vest with the blue yuzu swirl. He had his blue leaf armbands as well with his brown pouches for his weapons. As he looked over at his opponent, "Seems this guy likes speed and flashy destructive J-Su. Your best bet is Busage mode," the QB said. Naruto nodded as he looked up at his love and smiled at her. Looking down at him, she did the same, blowing him a kiss. Her parents were both surprised and amused by this, so she fell for him. Katsuchi, her father said to Inoi. "Yes, love at first sight even protected her when that Iha tried to attack them. He has shown he is utterly devoted to her," he said to them both. This was what they wanted to hear. They were glad this worked out. "Show us your strength, kid," he said. "Citizens of IWA, today is a special day, for we have Earth Beast fighting one Naruto to Uzumaki Namek for the right to marry Karasuki Inoki," stated. The crowd roared in approval, hoping Earth Beast crushed the Yellow Flash's son. The two combatants got ready, waiting for this to begin. The audience sat there bated with anticipation, and with one raised hand going down, it had begun. Mhan took off first, grabbing out his blade. He went for a downward slashing motion, but Naruto had brought out customized trench daggers and blocked the attack. As clanking was heard, the two locked into a fierce kinjutsu battle. Mhan, who had more of a straightforward style, used brute force to overpower his opponent, while Naruto had a balance of power, agility and defense, using his blades for blocking to tire out his opponent. He moved a lot fast than Earth Beast, even though he is taller and had more muscle. It was almost like he danced around his enemy as sparks could be seen coming off the blades. The crowd was at first shocked but then got into it as the cheered most for the hometown hero, some for the son of the Yellow Flash. "Wow, this is intense. He is really giving Earth Beasts a run for his money. Look at him. Garuto-sama is really amazing," one girl said as she gazed at him with mild hints of HMHM, several others agreeing. Katsuchi had somehow heard them and growled, "That is my man, go find you own Fang girls," she muttered. Much to her family's amusement, the two warriors stayed locked in their fight, but Mhan had grown bored and added elements to their kutsu, putting earth as an armor on. Naruto knew he had to step up his game as well, so he channeled wind into his daggers and went back to it with vigor, but Naruto saw an opening in Earth Beast's defense and exploited it, roundhouse kicking him in the face. As his sword was up, he was sent flying into the other side of the wall, much to people's shock, but he didn't stay down long as Mhan got right back up looking pissed as he made a couple hand signs. Earth-style rock spears. Naruto made his own as well, water-style raging stream. The spears were sent on as Naruto spout water from his mouth, deflecting them of course as Naruto charged after him using his faster speeds and decking him in the face and lifting him up in the air, and with another roundhouse sent him flying, but he corrected himself and was now getting angry to the point of lost reason. He used his power and flew up in the air, breathing heavy as he wiped away some blood. "Enough, I'll finish you and make the girl mine. I will be peerless," he cackled. Many were shocked by this as he insulted her parents, and no were not pleased by his declaration. Naruto was not going to let this stand. It was time to end this, but he noticed Mhan was doing something that caused Noi to pale. "Everybody get to safety," he was cut off. Earth Beast beast put his hands in a triangle formed. Party Cal release. Naruto had heard of this and knew how destructive it was, making 4 clones that went to the 4 corners of the stadium. Uzumaki Fuin 4-pillar barrier. A red barrier was put up as the party Cal beam went off with huge explosion and light, making the ground rumble. Everyone gasped and screamed in shock, thinking they were both dead. The biased thoughts long gone. Katsuchi held her breath in fear her lover was hurt, or worse, the barrier was gone and the smoke began to dissipate. Earth Beast had knocked himself out with minor injuries, but Naruto stood there breathing heavy, badly burned, bleeding from a spot on his right side where he was hit. He turned to see everyone staring at him in shock and concern, but he smiled, panting, at least why you're all. He didn't finish as he passed out from the pain falling on his face. Katsuchi shot up immediately and ran to him in tears, thinking he was dying. Naro, she yelled. Several medics came down to look at both fighters, while both Kazuki's parents came down as well to comfort her as she watched them take Naruto away. The winner of this fight is Naruto. Uzumaki Namek, the announcer, said word had traveled around IWA of the fight and of both Miss Han's recklessness as well as the Namek's sacrifice to save the spectators. Many were impressed by this and public opinion was more open about the blonde. Han was put on suspension for his actions, but Naruto had been in the hospital for 3 days to recuperate and had received quite a few get-wells and congrats on the win. Katsuchi though was a hot mess. She had stayed by his side hoping he would wake up soon. As mad as she wanted to be at him, she knew he made a conscious decision to protect everyone, and he did, but that didn't mean he could so careless. Now she had laid her head down next to him for a quick nap but didn't see him wake up and look at her sleeping face. Naro regained consciousness after Car healed him and reprimanded him for his carelessness. Slowly opening his eyes to see white walls, feel a light breeze and see the sunshine, he turned his head when he heard light snoring to see him asleep, tears staining her cheeks. He frowned at that, cursing himself for upsetting her, but smiled to see her beautiful face. Leaning in slowly, he kissed her nose. I'm sorry I upset you, beautiful, he said softly to her. She gave a small moan. It's okay baby, she said, still asleep. He chuckled at her when she opened her dark chocolate eyes to see the man who stole her heart awake and smiling at her. She sat up. Naruto, she said quickly, latching on to him while she cried, I'm sorry sweetheart, I never meant to upset you, but I knew if didn't do it he could have killed someone, especially you, and I couldn't have that, he said, playing with her hair. She nodded to him, still whimpering. She had never been so scared before. As she wiped away her tears she looked up, glaring at him. Ubaka warned me next time, she said to him. There's the girl I love, he teased, earning a smack on the arm from her. After chuckling he reached down and captured her lips with his in a long overdue kiss, ignoring the world around them while in Noi, Katsuchi and Maki stood off near the door looking in through the window. Just like his parents, we made a good choice, Maki said as Katsuchi wrapped his arms around her. Well, things will get interesting here now, Inoki said as they left. Naruto was given the okay to leave, much to Katsuchi and Maki's real life as well as Tsunade, who was told of the situation and was almost hellbent on coming to check up on her Gaki, but Naruto reassured her he was okay. He had been given a clean bill of health and he headed out. Waiting in the waiting room was Katsuchi, who was walking up when she saw him and got excited and ran to him and jumped him as he held her up, her face in the crook of his neck, hugging him tightly. She was happy he was awake now. Thank goodness you're awake now, she said to him. Me too, and I'm sorry for scaring you like that. I didn't mean to, but I had to make a split decision or he would made that a bigger mess than it was, he replied. She nodded to him knowing he was right, but still it didn't make her heart hurt any less. The thought of losing him was too painful to think about, but she let it go for now. As they walked out of the hospital hand in hand, making their way back to the Kaga Tower, so they pack up their belongings there and head to Katsuchi apartment. Many of the residents nodded to Naruto in thanks for his helping during the fight and for showing them that he was willing to earn their respect. The couple smiled and nodded back to them with smiles, but there were still some who looked at him with weariness and scorn, hoping they could somehow eliminate him and win their princess's heart. Making it to the tower, Naruto was met by Kuro's mother, who immediately hugged him and fussed to make sure he was okay, which he took in. Stu cried and was thankful for. Are you alright my boy? And Noi asked. He nodded. Yeah, I am okay, thanks for asking, he said. Good, because now that you're healed you'll be starting mission tomorrow as a fully fledged Jin of IWA, he said as he pulled out a stone headband with a maroon-colored cloth. Smiling, Naruto took the headband and placed it on his head, holding his head up with pride. He was now a Jan, even though it wasn't in Koha and it was Tsunade giving it to him. He was still happy nonetheless. Katsuchi blushed. He looked so gorgeous she had to stifle a giggle as her mother looked on amused. Thank you Suchaksama, I will do my best and will not fail you or IWA. And Noi grinned at the boy. It still felt strange to him. The son of the man who helped defeat IWA in the Third War was now working for him. It must have been some form of irony in all of this, which was kind of funny if you thought about it. The family congratulated him, then sent the two on their way. XXM Han was now in a prison cell glaring at the wall. He was disgraced now because he let his anger get the better of him. The Namek case humiliated him and now he was a Janine again. I'll get you back, wimp, I promise, and Katsuchi will be mine, he muttered to himself, a crazed look in his eyes as he completely let his senses go. Turning his head he looked at the guards at his cell and he smirked. Slowly getting up he walked over to the cell door, pushing his arm through. He grabbed one of the guards' neck, snapping it as the other looked to see what had happened. When Han Gohan grabbed the other guard and smashed his face into the bars over and over till he stopped moving. Once he let go, he opened the door because that is how magic works, kids, and left out the building, making his way home to plan out his vengeance against Naruto and Inoki and claim the seat of Tage for himself and take Kitsuchi as his bride and rule Iwa like the shame. Now them time to get some support and make my plans a reality. Making their way home, Katsuchi opened the door. Naruto entered after his fiancée and looked around. The living room was more spacious with a reach-around couch. Next to that was the dining room and kitchen, which were bigger than his old apt. He whistled a bit. Nice place is better and roomier than my apartment in Koha. I think this screams you all the way, he said with chuckle as it was painted with the color maroon. Katsuchi could only shake her head in amusement as they got inside and closed the door, putting everything away. Katsuchi went to shower up while Naruto decided to make lunch for them as it was noon, making his way to the kitchen and made some of the food he made for her on their first date: barbecue chicken with homemade noodles, sweet and sour pork with rice dumplings, and chocolate and vanilla swirl dango. Making 4 clones, they all got to work getting lunch ready. His mind wandered to recent events. He was petitioned out of being a nen for Koha, was adopted by Tsunade and Gia, and now he was a Jan for Iwa and getting married to the Stone Princess, who was both beautiful and strong and was for one reason or another in love with a goof like him, because you're a great man with a good head on your shoulders, and because like Tsunade and myself she loves you for who you are. Don't ever forget that, Kar said to him in his mind. Thanks Kachan, he replied. He went back to making lunches. Another clone set the table at the same time Katsuchi had finished her shower. She stepped out, whipping off the mirror. She looked at herself at 5 feet 9 inches tall for most of her female class, with perky cup, little bit of fat in her thighs and hips. She had the curves in all the right places with a slim waist. She was a goddess to the male population, and it always disgusted her how men always wanted her for her body. But then she met Naruto and he was just a gentleman to her, asking about her personality and goals. He made her feel good when he complimented her in a more tasteful way, calling her beautiful, and his eyes showed her he cared about her. That first date was a sign of that. She couldn't help but smile, shaking her head. That boy was too good to be true, but here he was and he was all hers. She dried off and got changed. When she came out, she noticed a peculiar smell and her eyes went wide. She recognized those smells and blushed as she made her way to the dining room to see lunch prepared. He had made the foods they had on their first date, with him holding out her chair for her. She smiled happily at him. It was so thoughtful of him as she sat down, and he pushed her in, making his way to his seat, and they began eating. It was just as delicious as the first time, and put her chopsticks down as she began to tear up. He looked at her concerned. Are you okay, Haim? What's wrong? He asked, getting up to kneel next to her. She sniffled a bit while Naro wiped away her tears. She looked at him. I'm okay, just happy. You have been so amazing, and I have only known you for a week. You make me delicious food. You treat me like your equal rather than the Stone Princess, and you haven't tried to make any sexual advances on me. I feel like something should go wrong and I'll wake up from this dream, she said to him. He gave her a sympathetic smile as he gently embraced her. Well, you never have to worry because I will never leave you. I love you too much, and all the other stuff will come with time. Besides, if anyone is the lucky one, it's me. You're charming, sexy as hell, and I like doing this. He spoke as he placed his lips on hers and kissed with all the love and passion he could. Koretsuchi just melted into his embrace and was enjoying his taste. It was a dream come true. They finished lunch and were now relaxing when a knock at the door was heard. Katsuchi opened the door to see an AMU there. Katsuchi-sama, Naruto-sama, Lord Swage requests your presence right away, they said, vanishing. The two got into their Jain attire and headed out. The two walking with a mission. Many were surprised to see the blonde looking serious, but knew something was about to happen to Naruto. It felt weird not having anything leaf insignia on his uniform, but at least here he could make a name for himself, especially with this being his first. For once inside, they made it inside. Inoki spoke to them with a dead seriousness. They made them both sweat as he spoke. I received information that Earth Beast escaped prison and is now on the loose. 15 minutes ago this letter came, he said as his secretary passed the couple the letter to them. I will take Iwa by force. The Namek may be won this round, but I will have my vengeance. This village is on notice. Blood will be spilt and I will take what is rightfully owed to me. Katsuchi will be mine and I will have the Nam's dog's head on my wall. This is war, so say the monster of Iwa. Earth Beast. Katsuchi read it and she froze. This had not been expected. Then she became angry. That pissant thinks I am just a trophy to be owned and paraded around, she said calmly, but her aura went dark. All present began sweat dropping till her mother came in and hugged her, trying to calm her down. Okay, then he wants me, fine, but we don't play by his rules, we make our own. I'm not dying without a fight, Naruto stated. Everyone had stopped to listen to him and nodded. He was right, it's time to fight back and show this monster who rules. Then as of this moment I am making a task force with Katsuchi as leader. Pick your team and find him, eliminate him before he becomes a bigger threat than needs to be. And Noi stated. Katsuchi nodded and the two left. Time find their team. Suzumachi had just finished up her training for the day. Making her way to her clan compound, she felt a familiar signature and one she vaguely remembers. She turned to see Katsuchi and a blonde-haired man next to her. She smiled at her best best friend as they embraced in a hug. Kurochin, when did you get back? She asked happily as they broke apart. Yesterday we had a little trouble with Moan, she said. I heard about that. He tried to blow up the whole stadium with particle release. Are all okay? She asked. Kororo nodded to her. Yes, is Naruto in here in case the explosion saving everyone? She replied. Suzumachi got a look at the blonde and then gasped, her eyes widening in realization. I know you, you're the squirt who my team fought for the beetle at the forest, she said, looking like she had seen a ghost. He nodded to her with small smile. I'm glad you remember me, Lady Suzumachi. Naruto Uzumaki Nam is at your service, he said with a bow. Her face went white as she looked at him, gasping. She then turned to her friend. Ah, she yelled. Zumi-chan, this is my fiancé, the son of the Yellow Flash and the last Uzumaki alive, she said aloud. The pair watched as she then fainted while Katsuchi just sighed. Well, that went better than expected, Naruto said as he picked her up. Making their way to the house, a woman in her early 40s came to the door to see Katsuchi with the Namek air as he held her daughter who was unconscious. Kurochin, hello again, what happened to Zumi-chan? She asked. She fainted. We came here to talk to her. May we come in to set her down? She asked politely. She nodded and moved aside as Naruto set her down on the couch. The older woman looked up at Naruto, trying to remember where she saw him before. Hayden, this is my husband to be, Naruto Uzumaki Namek, she said hesitantly. The older woman gasped. He was the son of Minato the Yellow Flash and Kusha the Red Hot Habano. She froze, unable to comprehend it, but shook her head and looked at Kuro. Who would have thought it, she said ironically. The couple nodded with a chuckle. Well, once she wakes we have 4 more to get. Han has escaped from prison, has declared war on my family as well as IWA itself, Katsuchi said. The older women went wide-eyed as several other members of the clan. When Zumi's father came in while he and Inoi had their disagreement, he was still loyal to IWA, so he was not happy to hear one of their own turned traitor and now called them out. Well, let her know. Go get the rest of your team in Naman. I met your father during the Third War. You remind me of him, and the one thing he had my respect because knew of honor, loyalty, respect and duty. Show us that you hold the same values and help save IWA, he said. Earth Beast stood off looking at his growing force. Standing around him was like-minded people who wanted a new IWA, a more dominant and powerful IWA where they had no equals. Today marks a new era in Eva's history. Soon the old weak village will be erased for the new and improved where we have no equal, and then we will reign. Our will end the rest of the other villages, he shouted. Cheering and clapping was heard as several IWA as well as Rogue Kumo, Koha, Kiri, Aim, Kusa and Oden Nin stood off watching with smirks. Most just wanted to see the world burn. Meanwhile Han had walked off in the shadows wondering if he should tell Inoi or just let it go. He, like Rashi, held no real love for IWA, but still this was his home. He shook his head and disappeared in the darkness. Naruto and Katsuchi had gotten Suzumachi as well as her cousin Hideo and his twin Yago, their friend Maro as well as Katsuki's cousin Nudo, rounding out the team of 7. Hideo and Yago were both 6'0" in 250, had dark brown hair and gray eyes, being Kutsu experts, and besides Naruto being the only Sway-Tun users, Maro was 5'7" and had hair similar to Hinata, long black hair with a blue hue, but had an attitude like Ino, and being a Kaden user only added to her spiciness. And Nudo, being younger than the rest, was about 5'5" and had dirty blonde hair and had Sakura's temper, which unnerved Naruto a bit as she was also very sweet like Shisen and 2. Right now we see the 7 of them prepping at Katsuchi place. You all know the mission, right? Asked them. They all nodded to her and glanced at Naruto, who they couldn't believe was not only the son of the Yand Hokage but an IWA shinobi. Now speaking of, he was checking over his equipment wondering if this was going to out of hand like crap normally does around him. Okay, then let's head out. According to our sources, Han is near Han's old hideout. If this info is correct, he has quite a few strong allies already. We need to eliminate him now, Katsuchi said. They all nodded and headed out, hoping to finish this soon because of the fact Han and Rashi were recluses that didn't really interact with people on the whole, knowing what entailed inside the catacombs, so Katsuchi and Naruto had their work cut out for them once they made it to the front. The leader turned to her team. Okay, from here on out stick together. We don't know the layout in here, nor do we know how many followers he has, so be careful and let's go. Cautiously they headed inside, unsure of what awaited them, waiting for the eyes to adjust. They made their way in. The tunneling was impressive to say the least, but it seems like it went on forever. The thing that got them was they could hear voices deep inside the cave, so Naruto stopped them, made 5 hand signs, and they all vanished. What was that? Maro asked. Chameleon circuit created by Gia of the sign, but not the reason you would believe. But for now let's go. I have a feeling what is being said has to deal with our very mission, he said quietly. They nodded, making their way to the end of the tunnel where they saw light and a big opening where MHAN as well as over 100 shinobi from different villages, and the common thread was they were all rogues. Nudo almost gaps had it not been for Naruto placing a hand on her mouth as Earth Beast spoke. Now then, out first order is to take out key figures, and when the time is right take on Inoue and the family. We will create an old IWA of the Shodan himself. The weak will die out, the strong will rule, and you all have the chance to take on the son and only living child of the Namek as well. I will offer not only a big reward, but for our female Kunoichi you can have his seed, as we will breed both him and Katsuchi. I will become the new powerhouse. Now then, get the intruders, he said out loud. The team stopped with wide eyes as Naruto spoke. Iel go cock and get them out of here. Warm it go, he said. She wanted to argue but got the other out to warm the village, staying with her husband even though they aren't married yet, but she felt like it and that is all mattered. The four left as the couple became visible. The enemy's shock. Well, what do we have here? The Princess of Stone and the yellow bastard. This will be fun, get them. The enemy began their attack, charging at the couple as they got their stances. The fight began. The four had made it back to IWA running as their lives depended on it. Running to the tower they ran inside, not knocking such a Kasama. We found Earth Beast, he is inside the catacombs. He has rounded up Rogue Nin from other villages. He's going to kill of our government and bring back the days of the shame, Suzumachi said frantically. The old man went pale, then became angry. IWA was not going back to the Dark Ages. Thank you for this info. Now then, bring me the Jin and Chunin at once. The war for IWA begins. Naruto was using Karen's chakra, smashing the enemy using his chakra tails to keep away the end from him and Kurochin, while 5 other clones taking on the rest, leaving Earth Beast to watch. You can't keep this up for forever and soon enough you will fall, he cackled. Naruto shook his head. No, actually, because I am the last Uzumaki and the Ninette Tails holder, plus my wife and my new family is here. You must be out of your mind to think I would fall against you, he yelled. Kuro looked at him and went wide-eyed but smiled and blushed at being called his wife. She couldn't wait to marry him. Han darted straight for a ward, as did Naruto, the two drawing back fists and colliding into each other's faces, which turned into a slugfest. Punches, kicks and other hits. While Han was strong, he wasn't on Naruto's level, and it became apparent when the fight became one side's. Naruto hoped the other made it to the old man in time. Katsuchi W watched as several others came up to aid Moan, so she went to aid her husband while Naruto threw a left hook into the crazed IWA nin's face. Another came up with a kunai intending to embed it into the Uzumaki skull, but Katsuchi came up with a roundhouse kick to the face, sending him flying. The pair went back to back, looking ahead at the oncoming enemy. Thanks babe, by the way, that was really hot, he said. She smer to herself, flattery. Later fighting now, besides I have a present for you later, she purred to him. The two were now fighting for their lives as the onslaught came after another. They were doing well, but soon Katsuchi's stamina began to wane, panting a bit when one came from behind and tried to stab her. Luckily she sensed it, but too late as she turned and was sliced in the side, a deep gash. Mo bleeding, she cried out, hitting the ground. Naruto turned and saw going, using some of Kachan power and speed to her. Even though overusing it was damaging his body, he had to keep her safe. 3N went through hand sign as they stared down the two targets. Naruto turned around aiming to take the blows as he healed Kurochin with some medical jutsu he learned. He looked down at her and smiled. I'm glad I got to meet you. My only regret is that I didn't get to love for much longer or get to marry you. I done it in a heartbeat, he said, thumbing her cheek. She looked up at him thinking this was the end, wishing she could her family and friends one last time, but mostly how she wanted to marry him. She was sure he was the one. Hearing him say that made her tear up. I love you so much, I would give anything to get the chance to marry you right now, she said as she pulled his head down, capturing his lips in what they figured would be their final kiss. Earth-style mud barrier, a barrier of mud ink as the injured couple as the fireballs hit at Han and the other looked on as Inoue, his son and daughter-in-law Atsuchi, as well as a battalion of Jan Chanin and members from IWWA clans banded together to fight back while the enemy was down. IWA to this chance and began their attack, slaughtering them without mercy save for MHAN, who was both wounded and exhausted as a couple. Jan grabbed the now disgraced hero with prejudice, bringing him to Inoue and his shinobi council. So you wanted to wage war on me and destroy what we built, huh? Now you're not only disgraced but we're going to make an example out of you. Take him back to the jail tomorrow. He gets sent to blood prison, Inoue said, knocking him out. They took him away as Maki and Kuchi went straight to their kids, getting rid of the barrier. They saw Kuro laying there with a new scar on her left side and Naruto, while his skin was missing in various places, but both were knocked out, with Naruto cuddling Katsuchi protectively, getting the kids up into the hospital. They destroyed the tunnels so they couldn't be used again. The battle had been won, stopping an even bigger crisis, and ironically enough MHAN was now hated while Naruto was respected by his fellow IWA citizens and shinobi alike for being selfless for his new home. Naruto woke up back in the hospital again, his eyes adjusting to the dark. He slowly got up, his body racked with pain. Sitting upright, he looked over to see Kuro Kurochin asleep in the next bed. She had on small clothes but had bandages on her stomach where she was sliced. He looked down, grimacing the fact her beautiful skin was marred, but at least she was alive. He got out of bed and moved to her bed, slipping and getting comfortable, placing one arm on her head slowly and laid there, listened to her snore. Smiling, he felt her snuggle into him. He heard her whisper, so warm. She smiled, kissing her hair, and fell asleep as well, wrapped in covers and their own body heat. They slept peacefully that night. It felt like forever, but morning finally came. The nurses came in to check on them to see the son of the Yandam and the stone princess asleep in the same bed, smiles on their faces and their hands intertwined with fingers locked. Blushing, they left the room to let them sleep. Katsuchi was an amazing dream, standing at the altar next to her husband, saying her OS and kissing him. Then to later that night when the real fun came, she blushed madly while blood trickling her nose. Naruto was speaking to Kar in his mindscape, standing in front her. They talked. That was reckless, but I am glad you're alive, she said. I know, me too. Luckily we won't be too crazy like that anytime soon, he replied. She nodded as she nuzzled him while he hugged her head. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX prison. The boy had restraint seals on him and was knocked out so they wouldn't have to listen to him. After 3 days they made it and met with Mui handing him over. They head back home with sparring. Another glance, Maki and Katsuchi walking hand in hand to the hospital. They had heard the villagers were speaking much better about Naruto, which made them happy. Walking into the hospital they made their way to the room, stopping at the door. It was only 10:30 a.m. but looked in to see the couple asleep in the same bed holding hands, spooning, with Naruto wrapping his arms around Katsuchi sleeping peacefully. The couple decided to wake them both up. Maki came in first with a camera taking a picture. The couple heard the snapping and woke up to see the pair in there, Katsuchi with an amused face and Maki squealing slightly. Morning, you two sleep well? He asked. They looked and nodded. Best I had in a long time, Naruto said. Yeah, it felt nice, but how long have we been asleep for? She asked, yawning. 2 days. The old man took the tray to Kusa, he said. The couple nodded and got up. Naruto had red rash-like injuries all over his body while Kuro took off her bandages to show no heavy scar, just a light white scar that is smaller than he injury. You two have the next week off plus your mission pay is in your account since you're both getting married. You have a joint account, he said, getting the release papers. The couple made it out of the hospital. All they wanted was to stay in bed for the day. As they walked through town people were smiling, nodding and waving at Naruto. Katsuchi smiled at him. He finally got their recognition. The older couple walked them home and headed back to the office. Soon enough he slowly began kissing her neck, closing her eyes. She relished his lips on her neck. They were soft and cold, but his hands air touching her sensitive skin, making her body burn up with passion. Exhausted they laid back down cuddling each other. Naruto looked at the clock. It was now 3 a.m. They went back to sleep for a fresh start tomorrow. Once they settled down, going into a peaceful sleep, and didn't wake up till almost 6 a.m. the next morning. Little did they know, but Katsuchi became pregnant at 3:21 a.m. when her egg dropped, and they would have the biggest surprise, their soon-to-be married life. The couple got up the next morning feeling refreshed and content. Katsuchi rubbed her belly hoping she was pregnant. She wanted this to be a wife and mother. She was ready. A couple arms reached out and grasped her SN snugly. As a pair of lips rested on her cheek, she sighed as the couple laid there. It was only 6 a.m. so they were in no real rush to get up. Morning darling. Good morning babe, how you sleep? Naruto asked her. She nodded to him. Did you like my present? She said, smiling as she loomed back at him. He grinned. A present I will always treasure, he told her as he kissed gently but passionately. The couple got up and showered up and got ready for the day. Naruto made breakfast when Koretsuchi spoke. Want to get married now? She asked as he plated the food. He looked at her, setting it down. Now that crisis is averted, yeah, I'm ready, let's do it. When do you want to? He asked as he sat down to eat. About in 2 weeks time. It will be springtime then, and plus if I am pregnant I want to tell them at the wedding, she said, beaming. It was really happening. He smiled at her, but he then finally noticed it. She was glowing. He knew she was pregnant and was excited for the future. After eating they left to go see the old man. While they were walking to the tower, many of the citizens and shinobi smiled and at them, giving a nice hello to them. It was a much different change from the first time when they were calling for his death. Making it to the tower, they went in and knocked at the door. Hearing the okay to enter, Naruto opened the door where they saw Inoue, Maki and Katsuchi having tea. The trio looked at the couple, nodding for them to come in, where they sat in a couple of chairs. So what brings you two here today? The old man asked. We want to get married now. With Mhan gone and the village at peace, we figured it was time, and since spring is coming up, why not bring it in with the wedding to bring Eva's spirits up, Katsuchi said with a smile. The three went wide-eyed with surprise. Then Maki broke out and squealed, hugging her daughter, crying, saying, my baby is getting married. Naruto looked on and smiled. He couldn't wait to tell Tsunade and Jiraiya. He hasn't spoken to them in little over a week and he missed them. And Noi looked at Naruto, who smiled at Kachim and her parents. Naruto, my boy, I have a mission for you to head to Koha and tell those you want to come to the wedding, he said with a grin. Naruto looked at him, nodded. When do I leave, sir? He asked politely. Whenever you like, we have everything here ready. Just make a list of those you want to come and bring it back. Tell them just to bring a wedding present and themselves, he replied. Naruto nodded thankfully. carefully. Iwa and Koha were only a week away from each other, so it wouldn't be a very long journey. Okay, I leave now, Illinois. Be back soon, he said, getting a nod. Giving Kurochin a quick kiss, he headed out. She would have come, but they had a wedding outfit to look for. Heading home, he packed for anything just in case. Can't be too careful when the leaf is enveloped. Once he was ready, he left. Once out of the gates, he pumped Karen's chakra into his legs and booked it, leaving a dust trail behind him. He was excited, having made it in good time. He slowed down as he made it to the forest, where he just walked the rest of the way. Judging by the sun, it was about 2 p.m. now, and he saw the front gates and smiled. While he held no love for the village itself, the people made it home for him. The gate guards were playing cards when they heard footsteps and looked up and saw Naruto. They went wide-eyed as he approached. Naruto Kotetsu asked. He nodded while smiling. Been a while, but yeah, I'm here to see Kachan, he said. Mission Izumi asked. He nodded, passing his passport over to them. Stamping it, he was led in and made his way to the tower, still standing at 6'5", and he had on a maroon shirt with blue armbands with the IWA crest, his headband on, black pants tucked into black boots, and his father's green battle vest and white sleeveless battle coat. He looked like Minato with whisker marks. Many stopped to see the Uzumaki and either stopped talking or began whispering to each other. None of it mattered to Naruto. His time in this village was done with and he had other priorities now. As he made his way, he made a right turn down a street when he saw Shino Abame, Rockla, Tentenmuji and Niji Hyuga walking his way. He smiled at them. He had heard about Shino being strong-armed, so he forgave the bug user. The four had been hanging out as Shino did his best to stay away from his team when not on mission. He was cordial with them, but it was wrong what they did. Even Karen agreed. Team N decided the same. Ni and Hinata relationship had become strained. He was formal with her and let it be same with the clan. He had always felt out of place with them, even the branch family, so he mainly did his own thing now, especially now he was dating 1010. Lee looked up and stopped, his eyes wide with a big smile. Standing before him was his friend and fellow orphan Naruto. Lee, what is wrong? Tenen asked her teammate. He pointed forward and they all looked, seeing their blonde friend again. They stopped as Tenen gasped, hey guys, Naruto, what are you doing here now? Shino asked. He is in his Baruto outfit now with visor. I am here to speak Todi and also to invite you to my wedding, he said to them. They all gasped. You're finally getting married? Tenen said happily. He nodded. Yep, 2 weeks from today, the first day of spring, and I would like you four to be there as my friends, he said to them, shaking their stupor. They all agreed to it as he smiled. Good, all you need is to bring a present, he said as he walked up to them. Between you and me, we don't need appliances or things like that. Kurochin is pregnant, so bring us baby stuff, he whispered to them. They nodded too excitedly. Mention this to no one, not even Swanda or the others coming. I want to surprise them, he said. They all nodded to secrecy evenly as the five broke away, mainly to go get their presentence. Now feeling happy to see their friend again, Naruto made his walk to the tower. The civilians wondering why he is here. Tati was in the office finishing up the last little bit of paperwork when there was a knock at the door. She looked up confused as there was no one coming to see her right now. Enter. The door opened and in came Naruto. Her eyes widened in to see her son. She got up and walked to him and embraced him in a hug. Hi Kachan, he said, hugging her back. She broke away to look up at him. This is a pleasant surprise, but I wasn't expecting you. You didn't write. A lot has happened. Leadin, talk about it. I've missed you, he said. Sitting down, he began to tell her about the coup Earth Beast's invasion force and helping stop him from killing countless innocents. Yet Kurochin took a blade to the side and the Bu chakra did quite a bit of damage to my body, but we healed and saved Iwa, he told her with a smile. She went wide-eyed as her maternal instincts kicked in, checking him over and fussed over him, but he assured her he was okay, cupping her hands and kissing them. I'm okay mama, he said, loving the idea of having a mom who loves and cares for him. It made him happy more than he ever thought possible. She smiled at him, accepting it as the door came open. Shisen came walking in to see Naruto. She gasped, not expecting him. He came. The duo stood up as Shizune came up and hugged him. Hi Zune, Naruto-kun, hello, how are you? She asked excitedly. He told her what he told Tati and she gasped, but he reassured her as well. She nodded, being the worried big sister she was. Listen, I came to today not to make you both worry. I came to say Kurochin and I are getting married in 2 weeks and I wanted you both to be there. Gia as well, he said to them. They both froze, then squealed and hugged him happily. Tati began to tear up. She felt like a mother now. It finally hit her, and she had become a mother to this blonde boy who had wormed his way into her heart, and he confessed his feeling to her. He saw her as his mother, and even though she didn't birth him, she loved him like she did. Shisen was excited. Her little brother was getting married. She had come to care for him very much. He was always trying to be helpful and made their day brighter. Of course we'll come, we wouldn't miss this for the world, Shisen said happily. He beamed. It felt surreal to him. He had his own real family. Yes, we can't wait honey, I am excited, Sunade exclaimed joyfully. Where is the perv anyways, he asked, looking around. Somewhere around here. He just got back from meeting. A contact word has now spread. Iwa had a big hiccup happen and many are curious as to why, as they know you're Minato's son and is marrying the stone princess. She said. He nodded. Well, it won't be the last time we see Earth Beast. He is dead set on killing Inoi and me, but with him in blood prison we have a moment to breath, Naruto said. The trio talked about all that has been happening since the revelation. Sasuke was made clan head of the Iha. No surprise there. Choji and Hinata got married. She is due around fall time. Everything else is still still the same, but the other rookies want to make amends with you. They have had a chance to look at their actions and feel guilty minus Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto nodded, not interested. They had quite a while beforehand and did nothing. Besides, I'm not looking to reconnect with them. I have my loved ones and real friends. Naruto said he would see them tonight as he was staying the night as he had to be back in the village again. The next day he left the pair to go see a couple more people. He saw the school, figuring that Ira was there finishing up some work. As he made his way he saw kids running to their parents. He looked on with bit of jealousy but smiled because he would be doing that soon with his kids, and that made the pang of hurt in his heart leave. Ia had finished the last little bit of paperwork as he stood up and looked at Anko, who smiled at him genuinely. These two were meant for each other. He was understanding and loving to her and her nature, and she was the right kind of spice he needed in life, and they complemented each other perfectly. Similarly to Karini and Asuma, who finally gave up smoking to live a much cleaner life, and because he loved Karini more, the two walked out of the classroom hand in hand when they saw a familiar face, Naruto, who was smiling at the pair. Hey you two, he said. Ia and Anko smiled brightly back at him, making their way to him and giving him a hug. Hey Naruto, what are you doing here? Ia asked. Inviting you to my wedding in 2 weeks time, he said. Ika froze, having those words replay in his head, but Anko grinned at him. So finally settling down. Hug, good for you kid, she said to him. They talked a little bit more, shaking Ira out of his stupor. He hugged the kids again. Of course we'll be there, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Ia said. Good, cuz I wanted to know if would be my best man, he asked. Ia nodded to him as he gave an invite to Karini, Asuma, Hana, Gma, Yuga and Heat as well. Saying his goodbye he left. Walking down the road he was lost in thought as he made his way to see Kanemaru and give him an invite. Sasuke, Sakura, Ino, Shikamaru, Kbhog, Hinata and Sai were walking back from the barbecue shop when Sakura looked up and saw Naruto. She gasped, making the others look at her. Something wrong, Sakura? Ino asked. Sakura didn't speak, just pointed ahead, making them look to see Naruto. They went-eyed, not expecting to see him in the village, but Sasuke, who was still sore about his humiliating defeat from the he became angry as he spoke. Why are you here, loser? Naruto looked up to see them all. He sighed. Here on a mission from Suchak Kasama, nothing that concerns you. Iha, he said. Many had stopped to see the pair speak to each other. Many were not happy about him being there, while others were curious about the Yandam's son doing here. You're here in my village, that makes it my business. You should know when to acknowledge your betters. Now why are you here, he said again condescendingly. Naruto just raised an eyebrow as he began chuckling. You know, you're actually pretty funny, Sasuke. Thanks for the laugh, he said as he began walking away, his hands in his pockets. Sasuke was now enraged. Without thinking he made 2 hand signs and coated his hand in lightning chakra, and he raced to Naruto, intent on killing. Naruto saw this and Krui smirked and did nothing as Umu were nearby. He was going to destroy the Aka once and for all. Sasuke's hand went through Naruto's chest, missing his heart, but still did damage as blood came put of his mouth as he began laughing. Much to everyone's shock, Sasuke pulled out his arm, smirking to himself. That will teach you your place. As soon as he turned around he was apprehended by Umu, whom had him on the ground in chakra suppression restraints. Sasuke, Iha, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of the Namak-sama. She, as they took him away, Tsunade had just finished up her paperwork with Shizune and Jia in the office when an Umu appeared. Hokage-sama, we have an emergency. Naruto-san was just attacked by the Iha. He is in the hospital now in critical condition, he said. The trio went pale and headed to the hospital right then, hoping he would be okay. Koha was now in metaphorical chaos with the attack Sasuke made on Naruto's life. Thing had become a bit tense. One hand was the outcry for the AIA's innocence, while on the other the outrage at the blatant attack and the want for punishment. Sasuke was inside the Umu prison, having spent some time with Iki, as Anko was not allowed to see him cause she would have killed him. He sits and stew in his anger and is appalled that an elite like him has been subjugated to this treatment. Naruto, who just got out of surgery, was resting comfortably. Sadie took safety precautions and kept those that either were neutral or were fond of the kid. Everyone else was barred. Some from the civilian council tried to have him assassinated but failed, and when Swanda caught wind had them coldly executed. Sakura and Ino was furious that their Sasuke was in jail like a common criminal, while Naruto was off scot-free, but there was nothing they could do as Asuma, Kini and Guy stood behind the blonde, as well as Team Guy, Chino, Karu, Uden and Mioi as well. Had it been 3 days since the attack, Tsunade wrote to Inoki about the situation and was not pleased to say the least, but at least Naruto was okay. Katsuchi on the other hand, well, let's just say she is on her way to Koha and is not very happy right now. Slowly opening his eyes, he looks around to see a white room with 3 vases full of flowers and several get well cards. He smiled as he pulled back the sheet to see a dent in his chest where his heart is. Same place as Cannon, but this time he smirked. He finally got that bastard dead to rights. Let's see you worm your way out of this one, team, he said to himself as he laid there with a smile on his face, but soon heard yelling in Nuhu's voice. That was he went pale. Oh, ___. The door flew open revealing an angry Katsuchi, her eyes of flame and steam coming out of her ears and nostrils. Naruto-kun, is there a reason why you let the Iha put a hole through your chest? She asked with a sickly sweet smile. At this point all his precious people had come to check on him and make sure his bride Tibi didn't kill him. He chuckled then nodded. Yes I do, my sweet darling love of my life, he said, buttering her up a bit. Don't you sweet talk me Buster, I have had too many close calls with you dying, and now that I am pregnant you're not leaving me, she yelled as tears came pouring down her face. Many had shocked looks, none more so than Tadijia and Shizune. I can't lose you, not when we're going to have a baby together please, she said softly as she started crying. Naruto now felt horrible, still in pain a bit. He got up and made his way to her. You'll never lose me, we still have to get married, we're going to have a beautiful baby together and you have to be Kag still, he said softly, wrapping her in a hug. She laid her head down on his chest and quietly cried. You promise, she said. He kissed her head. I promise sweetheart. At the same time Tsunade kept hearing pregnant in her head and baby together. Why, you're pregnant, you're having a baby, she asked mainly to herself. The broke apart and looked at the mother of the groom and nodded, both smiling. Yep, I am now officially a week along, we're having a winter baby, she said excitedly. You're going to be a grandmother Tsunade, Naruto said after she put her hands to her mouth. As the words hit her, she was going to be a grandmother. She couldn't help it but cry as she looked at Jiraiya, who smiled at her. Did you hear that? We're going to be grandparents, I get to have a grandbaby, she said so excitedly. The others in room were surprised but they let her have it. Shizune beamed brightly as Swanda hugged Jiraiya. The room was happy and full of light and love. Swanda then went to the pair and hugged both. If it isn't too much trouble, could we take a look later to see how I am doing? This stress coming here has me worried a bit, Katsuchi said to Tawanda. She nodded. Well, get it done today. Right now you two are my first priority. After all the excitement was down and they got Naruto back in bed, Tadi sat down next to him as Kuro was laying on the bed as well too. Keep her comfortable. Naro, why did you let him hit you in the chest? She asked. He looked down for a moment, then he grinned kind of wickedly, making the others look at him in shock. 2 reasons: 1, because I wasn't going to fight him anyways, and 2, he has screwed himself over. Vengeance is mine, he stated to them. Many were confused but Jiraiya thought it was brilliant. Chuckled. You let him hang himself so 1, he could feel hate and to not get his revenge against Itachi, the sign stated. Naruto nodded at him. Correct, by letting his anger rule his judgment he has basically himself over, and because of my legacy the civilian trash can't sweep it under the rug. Now he has no choice but to go to blood prison, and because no one has ever been able to escape there he let it trail. While others were shocked at his vindictive thoughts, the sign chuckled to themselves. He had it planned out from the start. Katsuchi liked his thinking but was still upset about letting himself be hurt, but it had turned out all right in the end. But the others, while they understood, hadn't expected this type of behavior from Naruto. Kar had healed him. She knew what was going to happen and she agreed with him on this. She hated the Iha with exception of Makoto and Itachi. While she tolerated them, she despised the others. She didn't make herself known too much these days, but with the birth of her kids first she wanted to take an active role in raising them, so she would talk to him later about it once everyone else left. Besides Iya, Anko, Jiraiya, Shizune and Tsunade, both she and Shizune got to work taking a look. The baby Korochi raised her shirt up while the Medanine looked over with medical jutsu. She felt the concentration of chakra in the womb and confirmed it. She indeed pregnant. This made Swanda very happy. Her own chubby grandbaby. She could spoil everything. Seems to be in proper order, no abnormalities I could sense, she said to her daughter-in-law. Kororo smiled, putting her shirt back down. Well, it was going to be a surprise at the wedding, but oh well, Naruto said. Given the okay to leave, they all headed out where they met an IWA convoy waiting for them. Lady Katsuchi, Naruto-san, we have been ordered to bring you to IWA, the leader said. They nodded, but Swan spoke you to get home safe and we'll see you in 2 weeks time, she said, hugging the pair. Saying their goodbyes they left with Kuro holding on to Naruto, thinking about her first baby. She both excited and nervous at the same time, but with Naruto there with her all the way she would be okay, but were stopped by 2 angry females whom Naruto did not want to see walking up to them with Sakura and Ino, who were both visibly upset and glaring at Naruto. You because of you Sasuke-kwan is going to prison, you need to tell Swanda he did nothing wrong, Sakura yelled threateningly. Naruto just looked at her with no to give. He tried to kill me, so him. Besides, he could do with some time in prison. He was bound to fall, he said to her, not backing down. She was furious. She cracked her knuckles. You bastard, why did you have to come back? No one wants you here. Why can't you see that you're a freak and a loser, she screamed. Naruto just laughed at her. I'm more loved than you could ever be, and I have my love's devotion. Can you say the same? Besides, we all know Sasuke bats for the other team anyways. I am the son of the Yan Hokage, husband into the future Yan, such gauge, and unlike you Haruno, I'm happy with myself, so go slip into something more comfortable like a coma he said, walking away, leaving a stunned Sakura and Ino, who said nothing cause she had nothing. Many of the IWA nen were impressed, but Kuro wanted to kill that should have let me kill her, babe, I hate the stuck-up brat, she said. Naruto just shrugged and picked her up bridal style. As she laid her head into his chest she was comfortable, a hand on her belly gently rubbing it. Naruto would make sure she was relaxed comfortable during her pregnancy. As they headed back to IWA at a slower pace, Sasuke, who was inside a wooden cell-like box as Yam Tsunade and Gia along with their escort made their way Okusa, where the prison was having chakra seals on him and his eyes. He could only sit there enraged about his suffering. Once they made it inside, Tati signed the papers and left without a second thought. She had her son's wedding to think about. The day had come. All of IWA was in a frenzy as their princess was getting married to their former enemy's son. Because of his actions in saving them twice, including from one of their own, he had become a part of IWA. In couple months he lived there and they would not let him go. He showed himself to be of the will of stone. Another thing they were all excited about was their princess having a baby. They were excited to see it, especially the ladies, as Naruto was quite looked at by the girls, so the baby was going to be gorgeous. The entire village came for this as it was an important day in their history. Having at the tower was also nice chairs set up. The square was packed up. In the front we find both bride and groom's friends and family. One side sat Noi Maki Katsuchi as well as Suzumachi Muhideo Yago and Natsudo as well as their families. The other sat Gia Anko Iagai Karini and Asuma along with Tenon Niji Lee Shinokaru Uden and Wa and the Ichiraku. Another surprising person was Miria Yamanaka, who had become friends with Katsuchi as well, like as good as her Suzumachi. Because she wasn't a normal Yamanaka, she didn't inherit their mind techniques, so she was a black sheep. There stood Naruto with Iya Jiraiya Gai Niji and Lee. On the other side stood Suzumachi, Mio, Natsudo and Ma. While the guys wore maroon with black, the girls wore maroon with gray to offset all the off-red color. They stood there waiting with proprietor all smiles. Naruto closed his eyes. There was once a time he had believed this was out of his grasp, especially after Hinata. He figured he would be alone, and once he left Koha that would have been it for him, but now he is here in IWA getting ready to say I do to Katsuchi, a girl he figured would despise him and tried to have him killed, but that wasn't the case. She loved him, she agreed to marry him, and she was carrying his baby. It was like he woke from a bad nightmare. The talking died down as the music began being played. As all eyes went to the back of the area, there came in Katsuchi wearing a beautiful soft maroon dress that showed her growing baby bump. She was glowing, and even with veil on you could see her blue-purple eyes, shadow red lips, and a smile that made Naruto feel weak in the knees. He loves this woman dearly and would rip this world in two for her. Walking with her father, who was trying not to cry, he was giving away his baby girl. The crowd looked on with awe. She was so beautiful with her baby bump, she looked radiant. The pair made it up to the front. Who gives this young lady her mother? And I do. Katsuchi looked at his baby and kissed her cheek, handing her to Naruto. As the two stood there smiling, today we witness the joining of two who share an incredible love for each other. As he proceeded on, the couple just stared at each other. You could feel the love they had for each other. It was unreal. In Kuro's eyes was a vulnerable love, a desire to be the best wife and other ever and to love her husband forever. In Nudo's was this primal desire to protect his wife, this fear of screwing up fatherhood, and the will to love and honor her even if he must trade his life for theirs. The rings, please. Iya and Suzubachi each took their rings, giving them the desired parties. Naruto had plain ocean blue and sea green colored band with a red yuzu swirl, while Kuros was the same except for the red gem atop it, her birthstone. Placing rings on each other's hands, it finally felt real to them both. You vows. Naruto went first. There was a time in my life I never thought I would get married, let alone find someone nearly a third as amazing and wonderful as you. Whether it was fate or just dumb luck, I will be forever grateful that chose an idiot like me when you could have had anyone on this planet, he said to her sincerely. Many were chuckling at the last part. Katsuchi went next. When I first was told about the contract, I was not pleased, but when grandfather spoke of you, I decided to give you a chance. I'm glad I did because you charmed your way into my heart. You have been nothing but understanding, supportive, and continued to show me why I made the good choice. I fell in love with you and I would do it again 1,000 times over. Plus you have given me another wonderful gift. She stopped talking to look down at her semi-swelling belly and rubbed it. Naruto smiled as he knelt down and kissed her belly, then lay his head gently on it, feeling his baby's chakra. It made Kuro giggle but also tear up. Tati and Maki began tearing up. This was a little too much for them, seeing their kids getting married. As Kuro was now pregnant, he stood back up. Do you, Naruto? Uzumaki Namek, take Katsuchi to be your lawful wife? Yes, without question. Dada Bio, do you? Katsuchi Ozaki, take Naruto to be your lawful husband? Yes, 1,000 times yes. Then by the will of stone, it gives me great pleasure to announce you as husband and wife. May I present Mr. and Mrs. Naruto Uzumaki Namek. The couple looked back to a standing ovation with two mothers crying and two proud fathers. It would be a day they would always remember as they looked at each other and shared their first kiss. Officially married in Kusa M. Han and Sasuke sat in their lone cells contemplating their revenge, but trying to escape the blood prison was another hardship all its own, but was left for another day. The APT was quite in a nice Saturday morning except for the gut-wrenching sounds coming from the bathroom, where we find Katsuchi huddle over the toilet unable to keep anything not sweet down. Naruto, being the good and dutiful husband, is sitting next to her with water and a cold rage to wipe her face with the sight of this breaks his heart, but he does what he can for her, trying to keep her comfortable. Finally finishing, she take gulps of air, slowing down her heartbeat. Her stomach finally calm, she takes the water her husband gives her to get the aftertaste out of her mouth. As Naruto wiped away her tears, she gave a grateful smile as he kissed her temple, lovingly helping her up. She leaned onto him for strength as they made it back to bed, where the expecting couple cuddle up and drifted off to sleep again. Babe, I'm hungry for strawberry cheesecake with chocolate syrup and some pickles on top, please, Katsuchi said as they sat on the couch and heard her belly rumble. Giving a satisfied smile, he summoned a clone to go get the items. While they stayed there, Katsuchi smiled. She had such a wonderful husband. With her hormones out of whack, she began to cry uncontrollably, but Naruto took it in stride, comforting the love of his life while gently rubbing her swollen belly where he felt a kick. You bastard, look at what you did to me. I'm fat and ugly and I hate you. Why, she screamed at him. She had been in a foul mood that day and Naruto took it in stride, tending to her every need, but she became annoyed with him for no reason and screamed at him, punching him in the face, leaving a bruised cheek and black eye, but he didn't complain because he knew she didn't mean it. Katsuchi came back to her sense and was horrified by what she did. Her mouth hung open as tears poured down her face, and Naruto, oh my, I'm so I didn't. She couldn't finish her sentence because she felt angry at herself and disgusted she would hit him when he did nothing wrong. She began shaking out of fear. She just made the man she loves hate her, closing her eyes for the inevitable, but instead was hugged softly. She looked up and saw her husband smile at her with love, care and devotion, which made her break down right there, crying her heart out, telling him she was so sorry. He, please don't hate me, I can't bear the thought of you leaving me, she mumbled through hot angry tears. Naruto just smiled and kissed her forehead. Nothing short of death would ever make me leave. I love you too much, plus I know you don't mean it. While it does sting, I can live with it because this is the life I chose and I wouldn't trade for anything, he said to her. She gasped, not believing what she was hearing, but because he had said, she cried again, holding on to him, crying into his chest. She was so lucky to have a man as good as him. Unbeknownst to the Monoi, Maki and Katsuchi had come to the place to check up on her. They walked in while hearing her scream at him, then punching him. They were shocked and taken aback by her ruthlessness. They were going to intervene when they saw her come to reason, and it broke Maki's heart to see her baby in such a way, but hearing Nar speak to her like he always was both a shock and a comfort. It was then they knew the couple would work out. Maki came to them and took Kuro to sit on the couch to comfort her. Baby, you okay my boy? And Noi asked. He nodded, taking ice to his face. I'm not mad, I know she doesn't mean it. The look in her eyes said it all. It's just something we have to deal with. Kuro, hormones and the pregnancy have had their moments, but I can't help but love her. Angry, sad, happy she is in all aspects. I knew what I was doing when I agreed to the marriage and I wouldn't change a thing because she makes me feel complete. He turned to his father and grandfather-in-law with a small smile. This took them back a bit. If he was frustrated, angry or tired, he didn't show it, but they were happy. He took it in stride and kept up his strong front. Naruto looked back at his wife and gave her an understanding smile as he walked over and knelt down to her. Sweetheart, are you okay? He asked, gently placing a hand on her leg. She looked at him, so heartbroken. Shouldn't I be asking that, she said, making him chuckle. I'm made of pretty tough stuff, so don't worry about me right now. It's you I'm concerned about. Don't be too hard on yourself. I know you can't help sometimes. I know you don't mean it either. I'm not mad, he said, to still smiling at her, making her feel so beautiful. She began to cry a bit as she snorted, but no one said anything for a minute till Katsuchi got up from her mother's embrace and hugged her husband. I'm sorry babe, please don't hate me. I'm sorry about what I said. I love you so much, she said, now sobbing, clutching him like a lifeline. He just sat there holding her, rubbing her belly. Just think, in a few more months our baby's going to be here. I can't wait. I have dreamt about this for a long time. I love you too, my love, more than life itself. Nothing will ever change that. He kissed her forehead as she smiled. That loved feeling returned, a warm calming sensation. Well, be okay, this is just a hiccup and soon will be a bad memory. Let us just look to the future now, he told her. She nodded as her wiped away her tears. The others were floored by this. Never had they seen such love and devotion in a young couple, but here it was. Maki was wiping away her tears. She was happy things turned out for the better. It was a nice evening, a calm breeze as the sun began setting, and our power couple is walking about the village. Katsuchi leaning on her husband, who held her close, smiling at her as it had been a week since that outburst, and she became more conscious about her mood and letting her anger get the better of her. But Naruto did the same as he always did, never changing. She was in a beautiful maroon sundress, her baby bump more pronounced now, but she was much happier and felt better after that day. Many of the villagers smiling at them, giving them lovely greeting and nods, children coming up asking when the baby will come. It was just a pleasant evening. Naruto was in the middle of giving his wife a rather amazing foot massage as her ankles had been swollen the last few days, knees and her feet were hurting more. She laid in the recliner chair eating vanilla ice cream with peanut butter and chocolate. She could feel him work out the kinks and would give throaty moans every once in a while. He had magic hands. She was on cloud nine. Good food, foot massage, and a hot guy giving it to her. Life was nice. Oh babe, that feels amazing, she said before taking a bite of her treat. He smiled at her but continued on as he finished one foot and did the other. He even gave her a fresh coat of maroon nail polish on her toes. He earned quite a bit of brown points for later. All the while the couple looked into each other's eyes and without speaking a word told each other, I love you. Your baby is healthy and your due date is now December 25th. The doctor said to the couple they were looking at a sonogram of the baby and were both excited. Only 6 more months left before she was born. Katsuchi raised her hand and touched the screen with her fingers, tracing the outline of her baby. It was like a dream come true. Now she began to tear up, feeling very emotional when she felt her husband's lips on her cheek. She looked up to see him smile at her with excitement in his eyes. Naruto looked down at his wife. This was the moment it became real for him. He was going to be a father for real. He kissed her hand as they went back to look straight at the screen, seeing the baby move in her sleep. It was night time and Katsuchi was asleep in Naruto's embrace, but he was still awake. He couldn't sleep yet, so he laid there while they had their ups and downs. The downs were rare, but they made it through them with flying colors, and no matter life had thrown at them, they faced it together, heads held up high and smiles on their faces. He looked down at his wife, an unborn baby girl. This is the life I chose and I wouldn't have it any other way. Kissing her lips softly, then kissing her belly, he went to sleep, seeing a wonderful future ahead of him. Life had become quiet and peaceful for the Namekusai's. Kusi was now 6 months along. She was happy, sad and needy all the time, but Naruto could deal with that more than the anger and scariness. They were at home as Naruto had just completed 2 shranks back to back, being gone for nearly a month. Sitting on the couch, his wife cuddled into him as much as she could while he rubbed her belly, wanting to meet his daughter. Finally, Kuro was in a thin nightie as any more clothing was uncomfortable for her, plus the fact she felt hot all the time as well. The AP was kept cold, but neither minded. One big change was Car was allowed out of the seal now after speaking to Naruto about it and decided it was a good idea, plus she wanted to meet her little kid as well. She was excited. She laid near Kuro, cuddled up to her, wanting to feel the baby. It was still early in the day. The couple fell asleep on the couch, happily taking a well-deserved nap. Inoki had just finished up the paperwork of the day when a letter arrived from Koha. Opening it up, it was from Tsunade saying she, Jiraiya and Shisen along with the Kazakage Gano Saku and his siblings were coming to see Naruto and Katsuchi for a 3-day weekend of sorts, and that they would be there in 2 days' time. He smiled and nodded, writing back saying they would be expecting them. Then he had the letter sent back and sat in his chair with his heating pad on his back, sipping some of Naruto's special made tea. It was not only good but was good for the bones and helped him sleep at night. Speaking of, he grabbed out his crystal ball, a thing all Kaga have to check up on his grandchildren to see if they were okay. Looking in, he saw the pair asleep on the couch, peaceful faces and slight smiles. He nodded to himself and put the ball away when a knock at the door was heard. Enter. The door opened to show Rashi and Han. He narrowed his eyes at the pair as they didn't really have the best repertoire with the village. Something I can help you both with. Tsunade finished up her paperwork. Seeing the letter, she smiled happily. She would be seeing her son and daughter-in-law soon. She couldn't wait for her grandbaby to be born, a little girl she could only dream now, a little chubby baby with dirty blonde hair, big blue eyes and cute whisker marks just like Naruto. She imagined herself holding her and rubbing those whisker marks, making her purr. She squealed, wiggling her shoulders till she realized what she was doing, then stopped, blushing embarrassedly. She coughed into her hand. Her UMO protectors chuckled behind their masks, but nothing more. A knock on the door was heard and she called out to see it open and Gia walk in, which was shocking as he never used the door. To what do I owe the pleasure, she asked. He smiled. Nothing major, just came back from Kusa. Both Earth Beast and the Iha are still locked up safely, he said to her. She nodded, sighing with relief. Sitting back down after his arrest and imprisonment, things became hectic for a while. Sakura and Ino along with members of the civilian council were demanding he be released, stating that Naruto had forced him into attacking him, which was BS to the 10th degree. Kakashi withdrew to hold his head in shame, went back to UMU along with Saya's Team 7 was officially dead. Surprisingly, the others like KBA, Hinata, Shikamaru and Choji came to Naruto's defense during all this, whether it was to make up for destroying his career here or because they missed being his friend and wanted to regain it remains to be seen. Sakura, having been the more staunch antagonist against Naruto, was threatening to go to IWA and not only beat him with an inch of his life but force him to make Tsunade recount the decision, but was stopped in doing so. If she had, she would have been excommunicated from Koha and would have been put on the Hunter Yumo's list for elimination, plus Enko, Karini, Hana and Yuga would have killed her beforehand, as they all knew Sasuke was guilty, though they also knew Naruto set him up for it too, but no one besides Sakura, Ino and the civilian council liked him anyways. Shisen had been the most changed as she became very aggressive. If anyone spoke badly about Naruto, she at more than one time nearly killed Sakura and Ino for the trash talking of him that was her baby brother, and she would be damned if anyone spoke bad about him. Another big change was Shisen found love in the form of the younger Hana Inosuka, who finally came out to her her mother Sume, who took it well, as did Tsunade, threatening Jia that if Shizune ended up in one of his books he would kick the bucket before their grandbaby was born, which seemed to get the message across, but didn't matter anyways, as his last book with Naruto as the main ship was the biggest seller to date, raking in millions. Just think, we'll be grandparents soon, we get to have our own little chubby baby to spoil, Sweetie said with a happy smile and near squeal in her tone. Jia nodded, sitting down on the windowsill, glad to see the old swim he knew a long time ago. I know, I feel pretty excited. I guess this is how Minato felt. I can see why now, he said with a small chuckle. Swanda pulled out the sake with 2 saucers. A toast to our perfectly imperfect family and to our unborn grandbaby, she said, raising hers. He did the same with a big smile, and they knocked it back for the first time in quite a while. There were no worries within or outside the village. Life was peaceful. I just wish Naro was still here, though. I have come to realize just how much he made this job worthwhile. You know, he nodded. True, he had that special something that could make the mundane see amazing, Jiraiya said as they kept knocking back the bottle of sake, the two in a nice, quite uncomfortable silence. 2 days had passed by quickly, and now was time for Swanda and Gaara to head to Iwa to see Naruto. The 2 Kag going together. Gaara had been unable to go to the wedding of his best friend and blood brother, as he had cleaned out his council after they tried have Tamari married off without his consent as her brother in Kazakage for power, but he and Naruto wrote to each other and it had been fixed as such, so he is going to be a father. Can't to see his kid, Tamari said, almost squealing when she heard about it. Gaara nodded, smiling a little bit at this. He missed his friend and only got to see him twice during his trip with Jia. Who would have thought though that he and the Stone Princess would get married? It had always been assumed that Koha and Iwa hated each other after the Third War, Kano said, still surprised about the whole thing. I was just as shocked when Inoue and Minato managed to put aside their difference and make peace talks. Plus his son Katsuchi and daughter-in-law Maki became food friends with Minato and Kusha. No one saw it coming, Ja stated, a sad smile for his son and daughter. The two parties continued making small talk as they made their way to Iwa. How come the Iha tried to kill him? I know there was no love lost there after the defection attempt, Kano asked curiously, cause the boy was mentally unstable, and the fact that Naruto had become better than him in a lot of ways. The Ia pride is legendary among the nations. Naruto had managed to wound that pride and he couldn't handle it, plus not many know this, but Naruto set him up for it, Jiraiya stated. You're kidding, Tamari said in shock, as were her siblings. They had known Naruto for years and he had never been like that. He wanted Sasuke to feel what he had felt for years, and when the opportunity came he took it. He locked the kid in a dead hold and now he is blood prison for it, Jiraiya explained. On the siblings nodded. They were glad for this. When it had been discovered he tried to kill Naruto the first time as well as hurting the others, they were disgusted by this. So Insama, you ready to be a grandma? Tamari asked her, walking with her and Shizune. She looked at the younger blonde and smiled. You bet I am. I can't wait to play with those chubby cheeks and those love rolls, she said dreamily. The other two smiled and chuckled, but we happy at the fact. Gaara even cracked a smile about this cause he understood Naro and he also found love as well thanks to said blonde. The two families made their to Iwa without trouble. They were met by Inoue, Maki and Katsuchi. After greeting they headed to see the couple in question. Katsuchi had just woken up and saw she was alone in bed. She stretched her limbs and got out of bed in a rather lovely nightie Naruto bought her for her birthday. It was maroon with purple yuzu swirls all over. She made her way to the living room where she saw her husband cleaning up the place wearing her pink apron, saying kiss the wife, and he is humming soft tune. Having just finished the living room, now going into the kitchen finishing the dishes, she laid her head against the wall with a loving smile when she felt the baby move and it tickled, making her giggle. Naruto looked behind him to see his Q queen awake and glowing. Her smile made his stomach do flips as he walked out of the kitchen and up to her. Good morning darling, how are you feeling? He asked her, placing his hands on her hips gently. She wrapped her hands around his neck, staring into his eyes. Slept pretty good actually, having you as my personal body pillow sleeping aid helps, she said smiling. He lowered his head for their morning kiss when a thought came to him. Breaking away he smiled at her. Would my lady care for a dance? He asked. She looked at him for a minute in surprise but nodded. It was a spur of the moment feeling and she loved things like that. They walked into the living room where he put in a CD and played its start of song. He placed his right hand on her hip, taking her right while she put her left to top his right and began moving slowly to the song. Kuro looked at her husband and smiled. I don't think I have told you how grateful I am. I don't think I could have asked for a better man than you. I'll take you over Han or the Iha any day, she said, laying her head on his chest, kissing her bed head. I know, but like I told you, I knew what I was doing. I'm in love with you, have been since that first date. I wouldn't change it for the world. They moved to the music in a comfortable silence. Nothing else mattered in the moment, just the three of them. Naruto decided to be cute with her. Hey, would you marry me? He whispered to her. It made her smile as she closed her eyes for a moment, then she raised her head to look at him. Yes, moving in. Their lips met and like that first kiss sent electric shocks through their systems. A moment later she placed her feet top his, making her a couple inches taller, and continued dancing without a care in the world. What they didn't know was they were being watched. Naruto had forgotten to lock the door when he took the trash out. At first they knocked but no answer, but then heard music being played played and they came to quite a sight. Naruto wearing a pink apron dancing with a pregnant Katsuchi in a lovely nightie. It shocked them as they hadn't expected it but smiled seeing it. Shizune and Tamari blushed at the scene. Tsunade laid into Gia who w his arms around her as they smiled looking and Noi smirked. It was rather cute. Katsuchi wrapped his arms around Maki as they smiled as well. Koro shook his head smiling while Gaara surprisingly took notes. The song ended with Naruto bowing down and kissing his wife's belly, feeling the baby kick making her smile as she ran her hands through his hair. Clapping was heard and the expecting couple turned to see their families. Kuro blushed in embarrassment while Naruto grinned seeing his best friend and family. Well, hello there, this is quite a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting any guests, but come and take a seat and I get you some tea, Naruto said. Help Kuro sit as the girls crowded around her. Kuroro felt embarrassed. She wasn't dressed but they shook it off. She was pregnant and being comfortable is more important. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Tati asked. To be honest, pretty good now. The morning sickness is gone, just hungry all the time. I can't wait to finally meet her, she said. Suddenly the baby kicked and they all saw Kuro's belly move. Swanda and Shisen placed hands on her belly and felt her move. It was surreal. Naruto came back in with the tea, giving everyone a cup. He sat in a chair nearby as they all spoke. So anything new with you all, he asked. Well, tired Mary off Tori to the Iha before he was imprisoned. Karo saw in disgust. You're kidding me? Naruto had a dumbfounded look. Gaara shook his head. I felt the same way as you, so I cleaned out my counsel and started over, he said sipping on his tea. The dark circles on his eyes was reduced significant because of the better sealing job from Gia. The only thing that has changed is the civilian council is calling for your head. They have in their minds you caused Sasu's crazed state. Ino and Sakura have been doing all they can to destroy your non-existent reputation in Koha. Sakura had even tries to come here herself, as she put it, to teach that loser Allison and making realize Sasuke did nothing wrong, she said sarcastically. Kuroro was furious. This was really breaking her nerves. Naro just snorted. I'm surprised she didn't. Anyways, that chick has had some screws loose for forever. The only reason I let that her hit me was because it would have been the excuse that trash needed to execute me, he said. They nodded as no one in their right mind would allow that. Well, right now she is on thin ice along with Ino and the civilians. Surprisingly enough, the other former rookies came to your defense. I think they feel guilty for that stunt and want to be your friend again, Tati said. The Sand siblings were confused by this. What stunt? Gaara asked. Team 7 had a petition signed to take Naro off the team, but Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi did one better and had him taken off. He active leaf roster to just be __. Shizune said with disdain. That was quite shocking. Gaara was not pleased to hear this. Naruto waved it off. It mean nothing to him. Well, just be careful, kid, because those civilians have it out for you. We have heard several rumors that they had tried to hire either bounty hunters or mercenaries to have you and Kurochin killed, Jiraiya said seriously. Most tensed up hearing about this, but Naruto sighed. I know, I met a couple of them on my last mission, he said, shocking them. What? Tsunade looked him right in the eye, as did Noi, expecting an answer. To Aoruku, the one who stole the Rinne Noken. He was a demon hater, so he tried to take me on, but I met an old friend who saved me, Itachi Iha. He heard about everything and wanted to speak to me about it. I told him everything. He took body for the Akatsuki and I took back the sword, he said. He pulled out the sword from a special compartment in the couch, giving it to Tsunade, who hadn't seen it in years. Why did Itachi save you? Gaara asked. Cause he was sorry for his brother, so he apologized, and that was that, he said. Why didn't you tell us? Noi, he asked. I didn't want to stress you out any more than you were, especially with Kororo pregnancy, Han and everything, plus I didn't want Kororo stressing about me. It's not good for her, he baby, and the upside is that is the only time it happened, he explained. They nodded, some not happy about it, but it turned out all right in the end. Kuro was just happy he was alive and home safe with her. They spent quite a bit of time talking, mainly just catching up. It was nice. He missed them all. Even though he chose this, he still missed them. Tsunade, Jiraiya and Shizune were both surprised and lived to hear that Naruto had been accepted by IWA. Their biggest fear was his safety and that of his unborn, but now they could rest a bit easier. G was enjoying this part of life now. He could laugh and be a human rather than a monster. It was pretty amazing. They even reminisced about their first meeting, which Kuro thought was hilarious. Surprisingly, her and Tamari got along pretty well for two strong-willed women. Another was that her and Shikamaru were not together anymore. They guessed he decided to call it all off, which didn't really surprise Naruto. I mean, the guy failed not only the Chunin but the Jan exams on purpose. Oh, everyone looked to Kuro as she winced a bit. Are you okay, sweetheart? Maki asked. She nodded. Yes, the baby just kicked my ribs is all she said as she snuggled back into Narc embrace. Hey Naruto, how about tomorrow we spar? I want to see how strong you've gotten, Karo said to him. Naruto nodded, excited by the idea. Even Gaara got in on it. Sounds fun to me. Anybody hungry? He asked. They all nodded. It was about supper time, so he got up, much to Kuro's pouting something he thought was cute, and went to make dinner. Tamari looked over at Naruto cooking. Caught in a dreamland state, Shikamaru never did this kind of stuff when they were together. It bummed her out a bit. While the others were speaking, Kuro moved over to Tamari to speak. What you thinking about? She asked. Oh, just how lucky you are. Shikamaru never did this type of stuff for me, lazy bastard. Then again, he never put much into our relationship either. Naruto though can cook cook and clean and bake and sew and all kinds of amazing things like that. I wish I had a Naruto, she said without thinking. Kororo raised an eyebrow then smirked. You like my husband, don't you, she said. Tamari went red, blushing like crazy, trying to deny it, but she couldn't. Though he was charming, handsome and a wonderful house husband, why yeah, she admitted, hoping she didn't piss of her new friend. Kororo came to whispers, I'm okay with it if you want to see where it goes with him. Besides, while he satisfies me all the time, I know he could keep going, she said. Tamari went wide-eyed as steam came out of her ears. All the while the others hadn't been paying attention to them. Thankfully Tamari looked over at Kuro. Are you sure? I don't want to ruin our friendship. Kuro placed a finger on her lips. Yes, I'm sure. Besides, I like you, I respect you. You aren't like that pink banshee or that blonde hussy from the Leaf. You're like 101, you're real, so yeah, I wouldn't mind sharing, but only with you, she said with a genuine smile. Tamari smiled back, now excited by this, as she bit her lower lip while the others were talking about something much more serious. I have new intel that states Sasuke Iha and Earth Beast will be trying to break out of Blood Prison soon. They had alliances with half the inmates, most of whom had a beef with either Minato or Kusha, but that is not all. It appears the Haruno girl and Yamanaka are in cohorts with the Iha, as is the civilian council, Gia said lowly. Both Inoue and Gara nodded seriously. It also appears several members of my former civilian council feel the same and want the AIAS bloodline in Suna as well. Same here. Earth Beast still has support here among civilians as well, but only a small majority of them. We need to put a lid on those two for good. I don't need them stirring up trouble, so close the Kuros due date and I will not have Naruto stress himself to death trying to keep not only her but all of us safe as well, Inoki stated grimly. They nodded. It was true, Naruto would do that, especially when he needed to worry about his new wife and baby first, so they would keep it to themselves for now. Only when in dire need would they call for his help. Dinner is on. They looked over to see Naruto putting food on the table, so they all came up to sit. As it was a round table, there was no head but it fit them all. Kuro sat next to Naruto, of course, while Tamari sat on the other side of him, which a couple others found odd but paid it no mind. Dinner had been a nice event, talking and such, just being normal people for the time had been nice. Naruto even brought out dessert as well, much to his wife and the other girls' appreciation. Once it was time, everybody said their goodbyes except for Tamari, who stayed to talk to Kuro a while more, even though it was only a half-truth. While Naruto had finished putting the dishes away, he went to sit down in the living room while the other two came in to sit on the couch. So how do you like it here? Tamari asked. He smiled at her quite a bit. It's much more peaceful than Kino, he said. Kuro smiled as the two talked. She knew Tamari was nervous but decoded to push it along. Babe, we have to talk, Kororo said seriously. This made Naruto jerk his head to her quickly. It was never good if she was serious, cuz that usually led to angry. Kuro, he said nothing but looked at her as she spoke. She then smirked at him. I have been thinking about brining another girl into our relationship. I love you and there are times I just can't keep up, she said. He went white. Ed, what are you talking about? He said, surprised. At this point Tamari spoke up. What she means is she found out I like you a lot. I have for the last year and a half, and Sheik dumped me for being too troublesome, and I was wondering if maybe we could have a go, she said nervously. He raised an eyebrow at this. You're okay with this? He asked Kuro. She nodded happily. Yeah, I like her and we get along great, just like with Tenon and Makura, so I have no problem with it, she said, making both go red as Naruto spluttered a bit. After a few minutes they calmed down. While he had fancied Tamari, she had been with Shikamaru and did not want to get in the way, but now if Kuro is fine with it, he could make this work well. If Kuro is fine with it, I think I can give it a shot. I always thought Teach-chan was very beautiful and has that edge like my Korum has, he said with a smile. Tima gasped then smiled. She was happy she was getting her chance. She hugged Naruto then Kuro like they were sisters. It was rather amusing to see. The next morning they had all gotten up and went to Naruto and Kuro's place for breakfast, which was another hit. Sadie and Shisen loved his food. So sis, how come you stayed late with them? Kanaro asked. The other were wondering as well but said nothing. Katsuchi spoke up in her stead to clear the air. She and I were talking last night. She had told me how lucky I was with Naro and made it clear without saying it she likes him, so we talked it over and agreed to share him, she said with a smile. Naruto just sighed as he looked over to see wide eyes looking at the trio. Karo had not expected this, nor did Gara, but the Kazakage nodded as he was okay with. I'm fine with it, just don't hurt my sister like the Nara did, he said with a slight edge, but Nar smiled at him and the pair nodded to each other. Are you sure about this, honey? Maki asked. Kuro nodded. Yes, Naro has been nothing but good to me and I don't mind, cuz Teachin and I get along pretty well actually, and we only agreed for just us two, she said. The others nodded. Plus an alliance with IWA and Suna wouldn't be a bad idea either. I think I am okay with this. An alliance between us and Suna would be a good thing since we're next door neighbors, Inoki stated. Sunade agreed. looking at Tamari. Then I agree to if any man is worth it is my Neron, she boasted proudly while Jiraiya began to stifle his perverted giggle which didn't work and Tsunade and Maki's eyes twitched. Jiraiya, I swear if I find my babies in one of those book not even Sard Toy Sense will be able to recognize you when you kick the bucket, Tsunade said with a giant tick mark over her eye and her fist out shaking it much like Kusha used to. He nodded shakily without saying a word while the others minus Gaara's side breakfast ended and they left to the training fields for their match. Walking through town they were greeted like normal people, smiles and bows given. It made Tsunade and Gia happy to see their boy being given what he so rightfully deserved, acknowledgement and dignity. Once they made it to the grounds the other sat off to the sides while Naruto one side with Kanaro and Gaara on the other. 2 seconds later Kanaro pulled out his puppets and Gaara whipped out his sand as they made a beeline for Naruto, who waited till the second and moved in a eerily similar fashion. Okoa Chunin exams a few years earlier Naruto pulled a Lee with his fast-paced movements, punching and kicking the sand that covered both brothers off to the sides. The others watched in anticipation, excited eyes viewed the scene. Both Katsuchi and Tamari watched their man in awe. Tsunade smiled. This was quite amazing since she didn't get to see his skills before with the petition. Wow, his speed is incredible, Shizune said holding Tunin. I know he took CHWS from Lee and Guy about their taijutsu, so it wouldn't surprise me in the least if he actually studied the 8 gates. Jiraiya said. Inoki was both pleased and impressed, liking what he saw so far. Katsuchi and Maki couldn't believe how good he was. It seemed your brothers are having a bit of a hard time keeping up, Kororo stated to Tamari. She nodded, watching on. Gaara and Kanaro were now on the receiving end as the sand was having difficulty keeping up with Naruto's speed as he got 2 good hits in. One was a punch to G's face, the other is a kick to Karo's chest, but the two didn't stop there. Getting serious, they bounced back and made their attacks again. Sand made its way around Naruto's did Crow, Karo's main puppet who was in front of Naruto, and with both arms swatted him away. The sand caught him and flung him into a tree, cracking the tree as he grunted in pain. He had gotten careless there. Naruto and Gaara looked each other in the eyes and nodded. Kano, stand down for a bit, this is going to get intense, Gaara said, nodding. He put Crow away and moved next to Tamari. The pair began channeling Bu Chakra and made it to one tail state, then vanished, and all you could see was shock waves from their hits. Damn, this is getting crazy, Katsuchi said, and Noi watched on and began to chuckle, thinking back to what Han had bragged about beating Naruto. The others looked at him confused. What's so funny, Father? Maki asked. Mizan actually believed he could beat Naruto he bragged about before their first confrontation, he said with a big grin. Katsuchi, Maki and Kuro all shook their heads, thinking back on it now he didn't have a chance in hell. Unknown to everyone, the residents of IWA felt the power and came to see what was happening and saw what appeared to be Bu going at it. At first they were very nervous but noticed that nothing was being destroyed. By this point both were getting tired. Calming down, they pulled out of the Bu state and called it a tie. The pair looked at each other panting, then smiled and chuckled at each other. All of a sudden applause and cheering was heard and they turned to see most of IWA there.